Yes, yes. Okay, thank you. Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to the August 7th Sustainability Commission. Meetings are broadcast live on Glendale TV, viewable on Spectrum Cable Channel 6 and AT&T UVerse Channel 99. Meetings are also streamed live on high definition on the city webpage, glendaleca.gov/live, on youtube.com/myglendale, and on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, iOS, and Android devices using a free app called Cablecast and choosing Glendale TV from the menu. Meetings are also archived on the city website for viewing at any time at glendaleca.gov/agendas. Call 818-548-4013 for program schedules. For public comments and questions during the meeting, please call 818-937-8100. Public comments on a specific agenda item will be taken when that item is being discussed. If you have any question about matters on the agenda or request for assistance, please contact the city clerk at 818-548-2090 during regular business hours. And can we have the announcements? Yeah.
Roll call. Commissioner Chikarian, Commissioner Cartoonian, Commissioner Bazemore.
Here.
Commissioner Vice Chair Pinkerton. Vice Chair Pinkerton. We'll come back. She's muted. You're muted. We can come back to you, Jennifer. Chairperson Werner.
Here.
Ex officio Fay.
Here.
Ex officio Park. Here. Vice Chair Pinkerton.
Here. Pinkerton.
And for the
Thank you.
record, Commissioner Pinkerton is participating from a conference room open to the public at 641 North Putnam Street in Williamston, Michigan. So thank you for joining us from afar so we could have a quorum. And
1A, Pledge of Allegiance.
wasn't the agenda posting thing, usually you say that bit?
It's
Oh,
1C.
okay, I guess I'm getting out of order here. Okay, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance.
Now we have the posting of the agenda notice. Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we can do it like that. So I would like to acknowledge that we're holding this meeting in the city of Glendale in Tovagnar, the traditional lands of the Gabrielino Tongva people. We would like to pay our respects to the elders, both past and present, and to the Tongva communities who continue to be stewards of this land. Glendale's history did not begin with colonialism. Indigenous communities have lived in this area for hundreds of years and numerous generations. The Gabrielino and Tongva communities continue to grow and flourish. We encourage our audience to continue to learn more about Gabrielino Tongva tribes and the many indigenous communities in California and beyond. To learn more, you can visit a website at eglendalelac.org/Native American, where you'll find a list of books and resources.
1C, report regarding posting of the agenda. The agenda for the August 7, 2025 meeting of the Sustainability Commission was posted August 1st, 2025 on the bulletin board outside City Hall. 2, approval of minutes. 2A, approval of minutes of the Commission regular meeting held July 3rd, 2025.
Okay, would anyone like to move to approve the minutes?
I'll move to approve.
Do we have a second? Oh, I'll second.
Roll call. Commissioner Bazemore.
Yes.
Vice Chair Pinkerton. We'll come back. Chairperson Werner.
Yes.
Vice Chair Pinkerton.
Yes.
3, board member staff comments.
Okay, would anyone like to start off the comments?
Yes, Jennifer Pinkerton, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yes, I do have a couple comments. I think this is where these go. Sorry, some people have just come into the house. I've made a couple requests through David to other departments for information, such as I asked with the Public Works, I don't know who it is, ever consider putting signs stating that recycled water is being used to irrigate the parkway along Glen Oaks, and never got any feedback. So I'm wondering if we can set up a different policy for information requests like that, where if Mr. Jones makes a information request to another department, could the Sustainability Commission members be copied on that email request and or the city manager? Because I've made it a couple times and we've never heard anything back. I also requested information for a possible Lose the Lawn campaign about what percentage of the city's potable water consumption is used for irrigation, and if the city has any estimates on how much turf might be grass lawns, might be the city. Never got any feedback on that. So I wonder if we can set up a different procedure and maybe set a report back date, because information requests to other city departments seem to go, seem to be made, but we're never notified of the status or if the department that was contacted ever responded. So I'd like to set up something where we've got a little more circularity and we get a response to our questions. So that's my comment. Also, for example, I have a question on how was the city's environmentally preferable purchasing policy promoted to other city departments? And the reason I'm asking is I have seen bottled water was given out at the Shell Canyon landfill tour. And then I saw rigid plastic, allegedly compostable cups used at a brand gallery art opening, both of which really are not in the spirit of the EPP policy. So I think we need a better conduit. We need a better or a defined system for getting responses to questions that they have. I think that's it. Thank you.
Would you like to respond?
So, yes, I think we do. Well, first of all, I apologize if I haven't responded to any of the commissioners' requests for information. I'll go back through emails and reach out to the appropriate departments to get the response for the commissioner. We do have a tracker where we do try to track commissioner requests. So I'll review that tracker too. And again, if I missed that, I apologize. But we do have a system that tracks the requests of the commissioners, of staff, and what is required of staff. So I have to go back and review that. But again, I apologize to the commissioner if I have not provided her the information that she requested.
Yeah, I mean, those particular things, particularly the sign about use of irrigated water, I've never heard back on that, and not heard back about the request for percentage of potable water consumption in the city that's used for irrigation, if there are any estimates. So, and those requests have been made a couple times, and I'm not blaming you. I just, but I'm wondering if departments from whom we're requesting information would be more responsive if the commissioners were copied and or if the city manager was copied. So that's the purpose of that, because it's been I probably first made that request about potable or water use for irrigation several years ago. Thank you.
Maybe if we could add these, so that we had a tracking document, I thought, at one point, so.
We can maybe under comments at the beginning of the commission meeting, bring the tracker up and identify that the requests that the commission have asked for, and identify the actions that we have taken in response to that request, so the commissioners can review that at every meeting.
Right, sounds like a plan. And Commissioner Bazemore, did you have comments?
Yeah, just a couple things. So I was thinking about some of the requests I've made in the past, I think, or brought up. This is more so just a kind of floating the idea again, but this is regarding recommending bills within the California legislature. So I think we've had the lobbyist from Sacramento come down for the city and give presentations on kind of the status of certain bills and where things are going. And I was wondering, I'm trying to think where this is going. I'd love for us to try to model, if we can, something similar to what the Commission on the Status of Women do, where they have someone that actually comes and not just gives an update, but also kind of encourages, or at least asks of the commission to consider supporting specific bills. And that has then in turn been voted on and then passed on from the Commission on the Status of Women onto council. And I've wondered if that might be something we could try to emulate here if possible. This could be someone, maybe a third party, I don't know, the same woman that came before, possibly. I don't know who does this for the other commission, but that's something I've thought about that could be, I think, beneficial for us, getting that opportunity, if you will, to suggest to our council members, ideas that, or at least encourage them to put their weight behind certain bills within the House, within the Assembly and within the Senate. So that's one thing. And then, David, I know you and I chatted about this before, but the JPL, I've spoken with someone within JPL before, within their kind of science division, and I'm forgetting the individual's name at this time, unfortunately, but this was one of their chief kind of, not chief, but this was like a liaison, scientific liaison. I forget the exact title, but what their role was to communicate with the public and kind of help interpret the science that's being done within some of the missions. This was actually for a specific mission, which was the orbiting, the Orbiting Carbon Observatory. And this just came to mind for me because I saw an NPR reporting just this last week that mission is looking like it might get defunded going forward. And I was trying to think if this might be an opportunity. If there is still any time left before something like that were to happen, for us to get some folks in from JPL again to kind of talk about their work and see how it might help with some of our climate action and adaptation planning, for instance, but more broadly, just I think as a good information. It'd be interesting to kind of hear about what they've been doing, what the data is that they've gathered, and kind of shine a spotlight on it, if you will, because it's been, I think, a pretty successful mission, both of them. There's been several, I think, two instruments that are in orbit, one on the ISS, and then the other is on a satellite. And anyways, I would love to hear from them more and kind of learn about that before it maybe disappears. So, and they're just right here in our backyard, so I figured that'd be something interesting to have them come in and talk to us about, if it seems fitting.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Bazemore. We will reach out to JPL. If you have a contact, that would help us greatly. If not, we'll try. But I think we did try to reach out. But we'll find those contacts.
Yeah.
As regard your legislative, I think we had scheduled for that person to come back later on this year. So we'll see if we can pull that forward a little bit. And then we'll contact the Commission for the Status of Women and try and understand their process and see if we can emulate that and bring back a staff report of how they do that. And if that's something that this commission wants to undertake, then we can go ahead and start doing that.
Excellent. Thank you. That's all.
Okay, so at this time, I'd like to welcome our new student ex officios, Esther Park and Felix Fay. Would you like to introduce yourselves a little bit and just briefly describe what interested you about serving on the Sustainability Commission?
Yeah, so my name is Esther Park. I'm a rising junior at Crescenta Valley High School, and what really motivated me to join this council is I actually serve as an environmental researcher at my school, and I've led a year-long research project just last year, and it was about algae blooms and how to mitigate that problem within our local environments. And that place actually went to take third at states, and I actually received the Air Force Award by the United States Air Force at the LA County Science Fair. And overall, it was just a project that I was genuinely passionate about. And I also have a passion in politics that is reflected in my joining of mock trial and speech and debate, where I actually got 8th in original advocacy, which is more advocating for the issues that I'm passionate about. And I had a pretty controversial one, immigration law, but it took 8th at states, and I kind of mitigated that problem in a more efficient, I proposed a legislation to try to mitigate that. So I felt like this was a great crossing of those borders where it's like my political side, but also my passion in environmental science. And I feel like this was genuinely the most perfect way for me to explore both passions simultaneously.
Great, thank you. And Felix?
Good afternoon. My name is Felix Fye. I'm a rising junior, and I'm incredibly excited to serve as an ex officio on this commission. And well, of course, I'm excited to learn, and I feel like I'm already learning so much about how this commission operates and how the city of Glendale at large operates. I'm most excited to make an impact to this commission, and I've already found that this is a very supported position, and Esther and I have already given a talk to a group of teenagers, and it's exciting to me because getting people our age involved in a climate solution is important to me, and for issues like this, it will most certainly take a village, and I hope that through my work on this commission, I can help to raise that village a little bit and bring more teens into the fold, as well as hopefully organize events that will have a direct beneficial impact on the climate.
Great, well, welcome, and we look forward to serving with you in the coming year, or coming several months, I should say. So, right, next agenda item.
Next is oral communications. Discussion is limited to items within the jurisdiction of the Sustainability Commission. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Sustainability Commission members may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. The matter may be referred to staff for investigation and report.
And we do have a speaker card from Alan Dish.
Good evening, commissioners, Ms. Warner and Mr. Bazemore, and student ex officios and staff. Nice to be here with you all. 5 minutes is too much. I will use much less so that I go to the other meeting, which is also going on, the charter review, which is maybe, not if not as important, but maybe as equally important. So, okay, why am I here? To thank you, basically, for 2 months ago, I believe, is when I was here to speak about Glendale Garden Homes, which suffered tree removal. I think 30 or 40 mature trees were removed because they want to develop it into a bigger building. And my issue there was to see if the charter basically could be strengthened for stronger protections to be put on trees. As we know, there is already protections in place for native species, but it leaves out quite many other trees, I think, which could have been protected. The other thing I wanted to share, yes, so I thank you because you basically, from what I understood, I had to leave, but you put forward some kind of measures so that it could come up maybe as a proposal to council. So my sad news, if I may share, it's not necessarily gossip, but it's about a neighboring city. So South Pasadena, which is often used as a reference for progressive and so on, you know, even their logo is a tree. So they're also very ecologically minded. But unfortunately, I found out at a meeting I went to 2 months ago there that they are planning to reduce tree productions. Why? Because they claim there's too much stalling that happens on behalf of residents who, you know, use the democratic means available to stop trees that are trying to be removed. So their public works department, I don't want to be rude toward them, but they propose basically to speed it up. So why does that make me sad? Again, because South Pasadena is a reference often for what other cities should be doing. In this case, maybe though, Glendale can maybe serve as an example. I had some provocative statements also, but I'll save that for another time. About sustainability, some problems I see. I'll wait for other members to come. If you excuse me, I will have to run now. So thank you and have a good evening, and see you during your next meeting. But thank you again because those trees couldn't speak for themselves and so on and so on, but maybe we can think about not having that happen. One more thing, it's so nice that there's a new park being developed. No? In South Glendale, they want to put it on Central where the Joanne's was. I stop. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Also, Ms. Van Muden, I had asked in the past about whether we could show the speakers' faces. You were going to check on that because I just find it really rude to show people's backsides
Yes.
when they're speaking.
Thank you for that question, and I did some research on that, and that is a city council rule. It does not govern the camera positioning for the commission. So if the Sustainability Commission wishes to put
So whoever's
cameras on the
controlling
faces
the
of the
camera,
speaker-
they just need to know that
Yes.
we have a different policy here and we need to show the speakers' faces. So when,
We can communicate that with, to GTV.
okay. So can that person hear me now? Because we do have a speaker later on and I want to make sure that,
But perhaps
That
Nora,
she's
who can be in
respected.
contact with them via telephone, can determine or inform the commission whether or not that could be accomplished tonight.
great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, next agenda item, or I assume that's the end of public comment, or did anyone call in? Okay, all right.
Next is 5 action items. 5A, residential air conditioner to heat pump replacement REACH code. The Sustainability Commission provide a recommendation to City Council to adopt a REACH code for existing single-family buildings in which an existing air conditioning system is altered or replaced, or where an air conditioning system is added, must either install a heat pump as the primary heating source or make other energy conservation improvements.
Good evening, Commissioner Werner and members of the Sustainability Commission. So I'm here to present today on 5A. So I have a short presentation regarding I'm asking the Commission to recommend that City Council adopt such a REACH code, and then I'll be available for any questions that you may have. Next. So what are the objectives of such an ordinance? So this ordinance is what we consider an AC to heat pump ordinance. So the ordinance requires energy upgrades when replacing or adding a central air conditioner. That the upgrade to an electric heat pump, conditioner, heater, and to comply with the state code. You may keep your existing furnace for supplemental heating, but the heat pump has to be the primary source of heating. You could also keep your gas furnace and your AC system. If you do, you need to make other energy efficiency improvements, and you must meet federal and state requirements. This ordinance encourages an electric heat pump, but it does not require an electric heat pump. Next. Just for clarification, this ordinance does not apply to a system repair. So it only applies to when a unit is altered by either new installation or replacement of an air conditioner. So we just want to make sure that there is no confusion, that if you repair your system, this ordinance will not apply. It's only upon replacement. Next. The policy context of this is that AC to heat pump is currently offered as a voluntary measure for local adoption under the California Green Building Standards Code. So in essence, we'd be requesting to make this voluntary measure mandatory, and that would be the REACH code. And the proposed REACH code will also include some changes to the Cal Green text to facilitate implementation of the potential REACH code. Why are we doing this? Why is this proposed REACH code something that we think is necessary? As you are aware from our greenhouse gas inventory, roughly 38% of emissions in Glendale arise through the built environment, and a percentage of those emissions arise from the use of gas for cooking, for heating, and for drying clothes. So the heat pump, utilizing an electric heat pump can reduce the use of gas within residential units. Next. So why heat pumps? Heat pumps result in major greenhouse gas emissions reductions. Heat pumps are 2 to 4 times more efficient than gas furnaces. They're powered by electric, and as you know, California is trying to decarbonize electric sources. A heat pump can both act as an air conditioner and a space heater. With a heat pump, there's no on-site combustion of gas, and there's no risk of carbon monoxide poisoning from the space conditioning system. Next. Next. Again, so just to reiterate, this policy would impact existing single-family homes, duplexes and townhouses within certain vintages, and then when replacing or adding a central air conditioner, either install a model that functions as a heat pump space heater and meets state code requirements that apply to the project. You may keep your existing or replace gas furnace for supplemental heating only, or as we said earlier, you can keep a gas furnace, meet state code requirements that apply to the project, and meet additional REACH code energy efficiency requirements. Next slide, please. So this slide kind of like outlines what we're talking about. So on the left of the slide, you have a new heat pump only, so you're not installing or amending the duct system. So where you see no shading, that is just meeting the state requirements. If you're going to implement a new air conditioner only, you have to meet the state requirements, which again is the no shading, plus you have to meet additional energy efficiency requirements. So in this case, you'd have to improve your fan efficacy. You'd have to meet certain refrigeration charge requirements. You'd have to install additional attic insulation to meet a value of R49. The exception existing if you have attic insulation that meets the R value of R38. And you'd have to do additional air sealing. So air sealing between the attic space and the conditioned area would have to be improved. Again, so if you're going to install a new heat pump and also do additional ductwork, you'd have to meet the state requirements, which again are unshaded. If you're going to install a new furnace, a new air conditioner and a new furnace and new ducts, you'd have to meet, again, additional energy efficiency requirements. You'd have to improve your duct insulation to a value of R8. You'd have to increase your fan efficacy. And again, you'd have refrigeration charge requirements. And those refrigeration charge requirements are following manufacturer's guidelines and everything. Next slide.
Wait, David, before you move on, there was one other thing. So you have here, it's, you say CZ, is that climate zones?
Correct.
On the right there? Okay. Okay, thank you.
So again, this is just reiterating what was said in the last slide, but just making it probably a little easier to read. So if you have heat pumps, there's no real additional local requirements, but if you have an air conditioner system, that is your primary system for heating and cooling, you would be required to meet these additional local code requirements. The purpose, again, is to encourage heat pumps, but still allow people to use gas if that is something that they prefer. Next. As you're well aware, in order for the city to adopt a REACH code, in order for the California Energy Commission and the California Building Standards Commission to accept a city's REACH code, it has to be shown to be cost effective. The investor-owned utilities set up a program called the Local Energy Codes Program, and their role is in the state is to undertake cost-effective studies on behalf of jurisdictions who want to implement REACH codes. So we provided the local energy codes teams the rates provided by Glendale Water and Power, and they took those rates and they modeled those rates into their cost effectiveness study program. The The primary purpose, again, the primary purpose of these cost-effective studies is for the California REACH codes is to demonstrate that the proposed building energy codes are financially viable for customers, requiring that the average savings from the reduced energy costs offset the initial implementation costs. As I said, before adopting the REACH code, the California Energy Commission requires that the local agency prove that the code is cost-effective, that is, the lifetime energy bill savings for the building owner or occupant outweigh any additional upfront costs, and that the required technology or construction methods can actually be done in that region. And that's why these cost-effective studies are focused on specifically to the climate zone. So each climate zone have a slightly different cost-effective study. The way that they show cost-effectiveness is through two ways. It's like either on bill or lifetime system cost-effectiveness analysis. So when they did the on-bill analysis, they looked at the gas rates, and they had like a moderate escalation rate, obviously, and a high gas escalation rate. Under moderate gas escalation rate, it wasn't cost-effective to implement such a REACH code, but under the high gas and LSC cost-effectiveness programs, it is. So we have to demonstrate it's either through one of these two cost-effectiveness studies that these programs that we can show that it is cost-effective. So it has to be a benefit-cost ratio of anything over 1. I can talk a little bit about what's involved in these studies, but the modeling is quite intense, and that is all the modeling that is done by the local energy codes teams, and I'm not aware, I don't know too much of the modeling. What I can tell you is that the high escalation gas rates that are used in this model is what are used for the update of the entire California Energy Code. So, because they anticipate that there will be higher gas escalation. I can talk to that a little bit too.
I have a question on the year, you say vintage year, that's the years that the homes are built, right? And then why does it only go up to 2010?
Okay, so pre-1978, there was no California building code, so houses pre-1978 were pretty inefficient. And after 2010, the development of the California Building Code makes it that these types of energy efficient measures would not be cost effective on the new vintage of houses because the California Building Code has made those houses kind of fairly efficient and tight in the first place. So that's why it's only applicable to these three vintages where they feel that by installing this new technology, you can reach that cost effective.
So the REACH code wouldn't apply to homes that were built after 2010?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
What are in the case column, second column, can you tell us what those acronyms are? For the, DFHP,
Okay, I'm sorry, yes.
HPSP, I'm guessing
So,
like high,
all right, yeah,
high
thank-
something, dual something.
Yeah, thank you for that question.
Yeah,
So a dual fuel heat pump
okay,
is you would go ahead and you would replace the furnace with the heat pump as a primary source of heating. You would not get rid of the furnace. The furnace would stay as the backup heating element to that.
mm-hmm.
So the dual fuel heat pump or the heat pump works within a range, and if it gets colder than that range, you'd be able to use the furnace as backup heating, but only backup heating. And when you're installing the dual fuel heat pump, there has to be the technology employed that the dual fuel heat pump or the heat pump is the primary source and not the gas furnace. So they do some connections to make sure that that's okay. The heat pump space heater is just the heat pump that would work as the air conditioning unit and the space heating unit. And the high efficiency, so there's standard efficiency heat pumps, and then there's obviously more expensive and higher efficiency heat pumps that are available in the market. But I don't believe we can recommend the use of the high efficiency heat pump because that preeminent, or forget the word, but preeminence federal standards. So, but we can just recommend the standard heat pump. But so if you wanted to install a high efficiency heat pump, you could do. And this is just saying that that would still be cost effective in most circumstances, bar the 1992 to 2010 vintage, where it would not be cost effective.
Okay. Thank you. And then on the right, so everything's circled there. I've maybe been able to discern this. So there's benefit cost ratio, I'm guessing, and then that's net present value?
Correct.
Okay. And green is good.
Green is good.
Green is good.
Yes.
We want to see the green. Okay. Okay. Well, I might want to come back to this later, but I'll let you, yeah, that's all I have for this. Thank you.
So there would be some exceptions within this code. One of the main ones is where the capacity of the existing main electrical service panel is insufficient to supply the electric capacity for the heat pump. So if it can't be supplied, obviously we can't replace the heat pump. And then where the required capacity of the heat pump is so great that it would not be able to space condition the space. So in that case, you could be able to use your natural gas furnace. Next. And then the specific exceptions that we just talked about regarding the R49 attic insulation, and so you don't require that if your attic's already insulated to R38, and there is other exceptions in the state code too. I don't know exactly what they all are. We try to look at resources for homeowners, and we are still looking at this, but as you're aware, federal activities are creating uncertainty for many programs. We do know that there is a $2,000 incentive program, $2,000 incentive program that is available until the end of this fiscal year, or this calendar year, so December 31st. GWP has an incentive program of up to $2,500 for heat pumps, so to install heat pumps. So roughly there's totally right now $4,500 incentives that you can utilize to help you install a heat pump. And we'll keep up to date on state and federal assistance programs. And then obviously if this REACH code does get adopted, we'd make sure that we'd be able to provide homeowners that information on a timely basis. Set up websites, what it is, an information portal, as you were, to provide resources and information to homeowners. You may be aware of Assembly Bill 130 that has an impact on jurisdictions wishing to adopt REACH codes. The governor, this bill was signed recently by the governor, and for residential units only, so it's doesn't pertain to non-residential units. There is a restriction on adopting REACH codes that will start October 1st, 2025, and go through June 1st, 2031. So that's over the next two tri-annual cycles of the update of the California Energy Building Code. Within AB 130, there are some exceptions that may be utilized to allow us to adopt such a REACH code. And the first one is based on the idea of substantially equivalent. So we could go ahead and potentially pass this REACH code based on the 2022 Energy Code, submit all the paperwork that we have to, and hopefully get that adopted by September 30th. And then as we do the tri-annual update.
David, if I could just interrupt you for a second. It wouldn't be adopted, it would be in effect.
In effect, I apologize.
So that makes the time frame significantly more critical because there's a 30-day effectiveness date on a regularly adopted ordinance. So that's something we're looking at and taking into consideration. It's still possible, but it would involve using the remaining meetings in August in order to accomplish that.
Thank you for that clarification. So if it did get into effect, when we're doing the annual or triennial update for the 2025 code, we could just refer back, say you already have such an ordinance, already in existence. So, and the city council would have to make the determination whether the new ordinance is substantially equivalent to the ordinance it would potentially have in place. There's also potentially another exception. So we have a general plan. Within the general plan safety element, they have made reference to using technologies to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and one of them being installing two-way heat pumps in order to achieve that. So we can, I think, say we've already adopted this in our general plan safety element. So that allows us to, after the October 1st date, to adopt a REACH code by referring back to the fact that it's already addressed in the safety element. So that's roughly, I believe, how that exception works. So the city attorney's office is currently reviewing those exceptions and seeing how we may be able to make use of them if given that direction by city council.
If I could
Sorry.
interrupt you again, because we have been looking very closely at this, and we did complete a review of this exception that is called the general plan exception, and we have adopted a safety element prior to the June 10th cutoff date. So our safety element was adopted and updated on April 1st, 2025. So we have that. There are programs and policies that align that this AC to H2P align with those policies within our general plan safety element. The two other components of that particular exception involve essentially not being in conflict with the Federal Environmental Policy and Conservation Act, and that's what came into play in the Berkeley case, where the city of Berkeley had precluded the installation of mixed fuel. So gas was precluded from that installation, and they were challenged by the California Restaurant Association. So as Mr. Jones just pointed out in the staff presentation, this AC to HP does not preclude mixed fuel opportunities, and so it wouldn't violate the second prong of this particular exception. And then the third part of that exception is whether or not it would be incentivized through an adopted greenhouse gas emissions policy. We don't have our cap adopted yet. That's right on the immediate horizon that we're looking at that, but we do have the Greener Glendale plan that does contain strategies that also align with the efforts that are being made here. So we believe that we have the potential, although none of this is tested because it's brand new, to make findings that show that an adoption just based on the 2025 Building Standards Code, the energy code component of that, could meet all three of the prongs of that particular exception, which was modified by AB 130, and it's new to all of us. So that's what we're thinking right now. So there are a couple of options for moving forward, and one is the two-step amendment that was mentioned. There is potentially adopting the findings to show that it would meet just that general plan exception and its three prongs, or we could do both.
So there's a recommendation that the Sustainability Commission adopt the motion recommending that City Council adopt a REACH code that requires the installation of heat pumps as the primary heating source, or make other energy conservation improvements in existing single-family buildings in which air conditioning system is altered or replaced, or where an air conditioning system is added. That concludes my presentation. And I think we have some callers.
Thank you for that. Are there any comments or questions from the commission before we move to our public comments?
Yeah, I have a few, but I actually might want to hear from public comment first.
Okay. One thing that I was going to mention, like earlier, you said alteration is to add an AC where there wasn't one before, is how you're defining alteration. Whereas in the end, that last slide didn't specifically say that. And so I think it needs to be clear, like what is meant by alteration. Like if a part breaks on it, now I've got to put in a heat pump or something. So that just needs to be like super clear. So I think it would be clear if it just said a replacement or new or addition of a air conditioning unit. Just using the word alteration is just a little bit fuzzy and you know. I wouldn't
Right, so
like-
the language in the model ordinance is when a space conditioning system serving an existing single-family dwelling unit is altered by the installation or replacement of an air conditioner. So, okay, we can make sure that that point is clarified.
Yeah, just say replacement or installation of, we would
Thank
just
you for the
make it.
feedback.
If I could add, I'm sorry, I've been deep in the weeds on this. Alteration is defined within the energy code as well, is any change to a building's water heating system, space conditioning system, lighting system, electrical power distribution system, or envelope that is not an addition. Alteration is also any change that is regulated by Part 6 to an outdoor lighting system that is not an addition. Alteration is also any change that is regulated by Part 6 to signs located indoors or outdoors. This Part 6 is for single-family residential structures. So the concern that we've had, of course, is what does this regulation mean when it is regulating new construction? So construction is defined, new construction in existing buildings includes additions, alterations, or repairs. So if the proposed legislation involves requiring, under certain circumstances, the installation of an AC to HP, and that is considered new construction because it's an alteration as defined within the energy code. So we had to kind of dig through to make sure that we were not going to be out of compliance in asking for this, whether that was new construction, meaning additions or brand new housing, or could we also require it in the context of what has been described within this REACH code, which is it would be a alteration to an existing residential structure in their heating and air conditioning systems.
And just to be clear, super clear with that, so you're saying that this would not apply to new construction, or it would apply?
It would apply to new construction, but it includes additions, alterations, and repairs.
To existing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. So it covers the bases there. All right.
Okay, and you say repairs, so if something goes wrong with someone's air conditioning, they can't repair it, they have to put in a heat pump, or when you say repair?
Could require it, we could require it, but it's not, it's not.
I think it
This
just needs
is
to be
this is
really
a local REACH
clear,
code.
but yeah.
So what
right.
what I'm reading from is the energy code. So what the REACH code allows us to do is to apply it under certain circumstances. And
Yeah.
we can provide latitude for repair of existing systems that does not rise to the level of an alteration.
Yeah, I just
can
think it
define
needs to
that.
be like super clear what an alteration
Yes.
is, so that, homeowners know what is involved with that and so on. So, okay. So could we hear from our speaker then?
Yes, we have one speaker here, and then we also have 4 speakers online.
Oh, great. Okay, so the first speaker is Kate Unger. Welcome.
How many minutes would you like to allocate for each speaker?
5 minutes is fine, since we gave everyone else 5 minutes. So.
Thank you very much. My name is Kate Unger. Thank you all. I'm not going to name you all because I'm confused about who's president or chair or vice president, but it's nice to talk to you all. Let me just speak to the point you were just asking about first, and I haven't looked at the language myself, but I think what it means is if there is an alteration to the system, because of an installation or replacement of the AC unit. So it's limited in that way that it's, if the AC unit is either installed or replaced, but repair of the AC unit itself would not qualify. So I think you already have exactly what you want, but I'm sure that staff is going to be looking at the language. I just wanted to make a few comments. This commission previously supported a REACH code that provided for new buildings to be constructed with electric appliances and not gas. That was great. It's unfortunate that that REACH code had to be set aside. This one is much more limited. It's a smart measure. It's going to benefit Glendale residents, their health and their finances, and it's going to promote environmental sustainability, which is what this commission is all about. It is hard to get contractors and customers to make improvements when they're replacing appliances that are broken down. They're under the gun, and they're just trying to do the simplest thing. This policy would make it simple because this improvement would be a matter of course. Heat pumps would replace air conditioners. They wouldn't have to, but it would just be a thing that's common. Contractors would be familiar with it. They'd be comfortable with it. It would be an easy thing for them to do. As it stands, contractors often just do just replace the AC. So this is going to help a lot. It's just a no-brainer. Heat pumps are basically the same thing as an air conditioner. They just go in two directions. They're the same size. They use the same connections, but double the capability. So replacing an air conditioner and a furnace is more expensive than just putting in a heat pump. So we're saving money up front against replacing the two appliances. Even if there is some increased cost against just an air conditioner, an important thing to know is when you were looking at the cost effectiveness study and it was showing those costs, that did not consider any incentives, but there are incentives available. Glendale has incentives, the state has incentives, the South Coast Air Quality Management District has incentives for heat pumps. So that brings down the upfront cost. I think in some cases it can bring it down to zero or even less compared to the air conditioner. And then there are long-term cost savings throughout the life in utility bills because, as Mr. Jones said, heat pumps are significantly more efficient than gas furnaces in terms of the energy use. You use a lot less fuel. It's just much better. Hey, for what it's worth, if you put solar panels on your home, then you can actually generate your own electricity, and that helps with your utility bills as well. Being able to avoid the gas means that you're reducing harmful air pollution locally, you're reducing carbon emissions globally. We really cannot afford to keep doing things the same way we have been. We have to embrace new, more sustainable energy use in our city. This is a small measure, single-family homes, and I definitely hope the Sustainability Commission will make the recommendation to the City Council to pass the REACH code. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And our first caller, please.
Michael, you're on air. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hello.
Go ahead.
Thank you, commissioners. My name is Michael Rockmus. I'm the Policy and Advocacy Coordinator for U.S. Green Building Council, California. We're a nonprofit membership-based organization with the mission of making California more sustainable, resilient, and equitable for all. And we support this AC to heat pump REACH code. And Kate made all the points I was going to make, but I maybe will key in on just a couple, which are the heat pumps are also known as two-way ACs because they do both cooling and heating. And so they've been compared, a conventional air conditioner has been compared to a car without a reversing gear. So if I bought a car without a reversing gear, you would call that a lemon, right? So there's a huge benefit to encouraging people to get a better technology that has a similar cost, fits in the same place. It's, installation's the same, but it provides two values and it does two things, and it's going to prevent future furnace replacement costs. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the state has made this policy available to cities who care about sustainability, cities like Glendale. And there's a bunch of other cities that are also looking at adopting this at the same time, because it really is a great policy that's going to benefit homeowners, and it's also going to benefit the community. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next caller, please.
Next is Elise. Elise, you're on the line. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Sustainability Commission members. I support adopting an AC to heat pump replacement policy for Glendale, as it will alert and motivate property owners to take this step to improve air quality and to improve AC unit efficiency and to improve the long-term value that this major appliance can add to homes, and has been pointed out when HVAC and other appliances break down, contractors often fail to recommend the newer, better unit, in this case a heat pump. So this policy will be a good prompt. Heat pumps have similar manufacturing and installation costs, and with the rebates, they can actually cost less. And I understand they can be installed in the same space and will actually obviously work for heating as well. So residents will likely save money over time. Gas prices are expected to spike. So this is one of the most affordable ways to transition Glendale homes to modern, efficient heat pump technology, reduce air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions from furnaces. So I ask the Sustainability Commission to convey support for this policy to the City Council. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next caller.
Next is Jackie Gish. Jackie, you're on the line. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Jackie Gish. I want to voice my support for the air conditioning to heat pump replacement policy. This approach has many advantages over just replacing the AC unit, including reductions in air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions for home heating and having high efficiency for home air conditioning. With today's current incentives and increasing gas prices, it is also likely to be less expensive over the lifetime of the equipment. We have a heat pump for our home, which replaced an old furnace and its very high gas bills, and is giving us air conditioning, which we did not have before. It is also safer than the old furnace was. I urge the Sustainability Commission to recommend that City Council adopt this AC to heat pump reach code. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Next caller.
Next is Danielle. Danielle, you're on the line. Can you hear me?
Hi, yes. Thank you for taking my call. I am calling to also express my support for this recommendation for heat pump ACs to replace existing ACs. Sorry, I'm hearing an echo, which is now it's gone. As a homeowner, I echo a lot of what other people have said with experiences with contractors when we were looking to make this change or to change to a heat pump water heater. We got a lot of pushback from contractors, even though I knew very well what I wanted. So I think it will be helpful to increase their knowledge of this technology so that they can help homeowners make a decision that is not only good for the climate, but also for their health. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Last caller.
The line. Can you hear me, Monica?
Hi, yes, thank you. Hi, I'm calling also to convey my support for this policy and ask you to recommend it to City Council as well. I won't repeat all of the things that previous callers said, but I do agree with them. I just wanted to highlight also that this targeted reach code would fit hand in glove with incentives that GWP has announced they'll be offering in the coming fiscal year. they actually are giving quite increased rebates for heat pump HVAC to $500 a ton, which if you have a 4-ton system, that's $2,000. And I know this is not exactly related, but just so if anyone's listening, their heat pump water heater rebate is going to go up to $4,000 max. So that is an amazing rebate. So these can be reach codes that a reach code that works hand in glove with other efforts the city is making to support that transition to a healthier and more cost-effective and better for the climate and indoor air quality policy. Thank you so much for your consideration today.
Okay, thank you.
That is all.
Okay, so the public comment period is closed. So who would like to lead off the Sustainability Commissioner comments?
I don't know if it would be, excuse me, I don't know if it'd be possible to pull that, excuse me one moment. I don't know if it would be possible to pull up that cost-benefit analysis chart again. I just had a question. So some of the benefit to cost ratios are displayed as numbers like 1.49, and others are just displayed as more than 1. Is that because there was a very negligible cost benefit, or might there be another reason?
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Fay. So yes, as long as it is 1 or above, so if it's just that is all they're looking for. So that's why they just display it as that.
That was my only question.
So 1 is the threshold, basically.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. I did have a question on, I thought it was odd that the one that's like the most like recent houses on there, so the 1992 to 2010, like for the high efficiency units, it seemed counterintuitive that those would not be cost effective compared to the standard efficiency ones. So I'm, scratching my head on that one. Can you explain that one?
I will be able to explain that to you after tomorrow, as I'm talking to the people who did the cost-effective study analysis for us, precisely to ask that question. But I think it's because the incremental further cost of the high-efficiency equipment versus the energy improvements that have been part of the California Code during that vintage doesn't warrant it to be cost effective, is my understanding.
Okay. So there might be an opportunity to change that date. So maybe it's just, I wish I could remember when Cal Green was first implemented. Does anyone know that off the top of their head? But so, because probably in, for sure, like in the early 90s and so on, everything was like really inefficient, but then we had these more efficient things. So maybe the vintage year needs to change so that it becomes, so they hit the cost benefit ratio. Is that something that's been looked at all?
That's the question that would have to be to the local energy code teams. We could not change the vintage year because this is standard across the state that they use these vintage years. So.
Okay.
So what is individual to the city is the rate structure, but everything else is statewide, like the use of equipment, they model a house, so everything is like, they don't change that for the individual climate zones. It's just the rate structure that we provide them from GWB.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for shedding that light on it.
If you, in the packet we provided the cost effectiveness study that was given to us. And on page 14 of that cost effectiveness study, it outlines the different vintages and what was required in terms of the California Building Code under those different vintages. So the information is there if the Commission is interested.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Bazemore?
Yeah. Thank you for bringing this. I'll start with that. I think this is something that is a great follow-up to the building electrification ordinance that we had tried to pass and, well, that council adopted and then unfortunately had to be pared down because of the Ninth Circuit, I think, their decision. So I'm really encouraged by this. I think we are acting at the right time. I guess it is kind of the 11th hour that the State Assembly has, or the governor's put on us here. So we have to act now, and I'm glad we are. A few of my questions were already answered. I was wondering about the rebates. I think one of the callers did mention something about increased rebates, possibly.
So, Commissioner Bazemore, I know that Glendale Water and Power is looking at the public benefit charge program and the rebates that they have within that program. They will be coming to City Council at some point in the future. I don't know when, to discuss that and get direction from Council of how to proceed. But I know that hasn't gone in front of Council yet, but I believe it's coming.
Okay. And the other one I was curious about, which I'm glad to hear as well, is that this benefit, this cost effectiveness study did not incorporate in, it sounds like all or some of the incentives that were available. Is that the case?
Correct. It does not include the incentives.
Okay, okay. And I do know, so we have, as I think you mentioned, there's the HERA, there's the, CEC rebates that are available through the state. It sounds like those are ending at the end of the year due to federal changes. So it does also, again, make sense to, I think, trying to take advantage of that funding that's still available with something like this while we can. What else? We're going after single-family homes here. That's not the right way to say it. We're targeting single-family homes with something like this. But I am wondering if there's a reason for just that. Are there options maybe in the future to expand this beyond single-family homes? And then what is actually the definition of a single-family home?
So a single-family home is a single-family home, as you would picture, and a low-rise, so 1 to 3 stories, and townhomes.
Okay.
That's what they define as single-family homes. So yes, potentially there is future to look at additional reach codes for non-residential and high-rise residential, which are not impacted by AB 130, is to my understanding. So I think because the number of single-family units in Glendale that fit within these 3 vintages, it's like 37,000 plus units. So reaching out to those will make the larger impact in terms of our greenhouse gas emissions. But depending on what happens, the adoption of the Climate Action Adaptation Plan, we would potentially look at adopting energy performance codes for other types of buildings, not just single-family residential. So that is something that we're yet to explore.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm thinking specifically maybe about multifamily, kind of the next step up. So condominiums, not necessarily high rise, but we have a lot of what seem like low rise condominium buildings here with like 10 plus units, 10 to 20 units or something like that.
And I believe the state is doing the cost effectiveness studies on those other residences. So they haven't been done yet, so we wouldn't be able to.
Got it. Okay. One thing at a time. What else? In terms of exceptions or exemptions, I should say, for homeowners, what was there again? Can we go over those again? I might have missed, I think there was another slide. Yeah, this one here. So with something like this, for instance, so when a homeowner is looking to make this upgrade, or replacement, this has to be, they have to receive a, pull a permit from the city. And then city planning would make this call regarding this first exception or exemption?
Well, the architect or the building owner would request the exception, and then the building planning, the building officer would then review that request
Yeah.
and either accept or not accept
Okay.
the requested exemption.
So it would just be these four. So it'd be that one regarding the service panel, the heat pump, where the required capacity of a heat pump is. Can you explain the second one to me?
So where it's my understanding that where the heat pump capacity unit is 12,000 BTU, British thermal units per hour or more, the air conditioner capacity, a furnace would be required to meet that. I don't think a heat pump could meet that BTU per hour.
Okay. So this is like a large tonnage AC of some kind. Okay. And then the second
That's for the
pa-
space heating, not cooling.
Right. Okay, and then, sorry, forgive me, the next page, just walking through these together here.
So if you have attic insulation that already exists to the R value of 38,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have to do the R49 attic insulation, so that's another exemption.
Do we know kind of what the standards are as they exist right now when it comes to attic insulation? Like, is R38 about what we're expecting normally, or is R49 what's expected normally?
So R49 would be generally above the current state code. I assume the current state code is an R38 value, but I'd have to find out.
Okay, and the reason, so then what is the reason necessarily for that higher number for the 49, R49?
To make the weatherization of the house.
Right.
Right.
But I just mean in this circumstance, it's just, does it
Well, to
lend-
offset the energy efficiency that is lost by not moving to a heat pump.
I think I follow that. Okay, and then there are other exceptions already within state code. but- Okay, I'm just trying to think through kind of ways in which homeowners, might see opportunities to find their way out of this, if you will, to put it delicately. So,
I think it's been written to try to be fair
yeah,
to the homeowners.
yeah,
And I know when the local energy codes teams were exploring this particular REACH code, the nuances were it took them quite a bit of way to navigate it through
sure.
to get to the point where the extra energy efficiency requirements aren't too onerous, but do encourage
Yeah,
the installation of heat.
yeah, no, that makes sense. What else? I think for these kinds of upgrades, maybe I'll end it there. I'm just trying to think of some other thoughts here, but
Well, you can jump in again if something
Yeah, yeah.
occurs to you.
thanks.
Would you like to speak? Yeah.
Yeah. So if we can go back to the price breakdown, I was wondering if the furnace was actually considered when making this price chart. Was it considered both the air conditioning system and the furnace when making this breakdown? So because the heat pump is dual, it's considering
So
both
under the
heating
dual
and
fuel
cooling.
heat pump, the existing furnace would stay on the DFHP. Under the heat pump space heater, the existing furnace would be removed, and the heat pump would work as both the heating and the cooling.
I see. So you're saying that for the HPSH, that would include the heat pump as the cooling, and then the furnace would act as a secondary option or a supplementary
Correct.
option.
Correct.
And then the HPSH is where the heat pump is responsible for all heating and cooling.
Or space
Oh,
conditioning.
I see.
Yeah.
I understand. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and Jennifer, did you have any questions? Since you're participating remotely, don't want you to be left out.
I don't have any, but thank you.
Okay, great.
If I may, I had a couple questions. So I'm not sure if it's entirely relevant, but in the calculation for whether or not we can pass a REACH code at all, given it being more cost effective, are rebates and the totality of the circumstances surrounding it, so meaning rebates, are those considered within that calculation, or is it more of a table like this that does not consider rebates that would be used?
No, the rebates are not included in the calculation. When they include the calculation, they're looking at the incremental cost difference between a current system, so an AC with a furnace, as opposed to a heat pump system. They're looking at the cost of installation. They're looking at the cost of replacement. So within 10, 15 years, certain portions of the system may need to replace, whether it's a fan or something like that. So they include that. And they include the maintenance costs. So those are the costs that they look at. In terms of equipment costs, they did a survey with contractors throughout the state, and the contractors provided their costing for the installation of different types of heat pumps. So the cost-effective teams used all that information to come out with these calculations.
And then my other question is, do we have any kind of projection of like how many single-family homes would fall under exceptions to this REACH code?
We do not. We estimate that of the 37,000 single-family units within Glendale, probably 10,000 would potentially be affected by the REACH code, but we do not know, again, who applies for an exemption, and so we don't know that information. That's a great question, but we don't have that information.
Affected by the REACH code, how immediately? Within a year?
So it's on replacement. So we're not going ahead and say every house now has to do it. It's when you decide to replace or update your air conditioner, that's when the code will take effect.
And is there any kind of time horizon on this code, or it is indefinite until?
So another great question. So as we mentioned earlier, the California Energy Code has to be updated every 3 years. So when the city goes to update that energy code, any REACH code that we have in the city, we have to update at the same time. If we choose not to update it, that REACH code would then be dropped, and we wouldn't be able to enforce it.
That's it.
Follow-up question regarding Felix's question. So the AB 130 impact that was discussed in the timeline specifically, so do we fall under the discretion of the exceptions that were provided, or would we have to implement this by October 1st?
Great question. So there are a couple of options for us available, as I indicated, for the adoption of an amendment to the 2022 existing Building Standards Code, Energy Code component of that. That would have to be by ordinance, and that process is an introduction of the ordinance, and then a week later it would be adopted, but would not take effect for 30 days. So it's possible for that to be done within the remaining time. If we are not able to bring it forward for adoption in time for it to become effective, it's possible that we could request it be done on an urgency basis. So there are a couple of avenues along those lines in order for that to be adopted. And then it becomes a code that is in effect. So when the new cycle of the California Building Code standards comes forward, which we adopt every 3 years, we can re-adopt it as a code that is substantially equivalent to an existing code, since we already adopted it. So that is one of the exceptions. There are 6 exceptions. The other one that seems to be applicable that I discussed earlier is that aligns with our general plan. It doesn't conflict with the federal law, which is the Energy Policy and Conservation Act, Energy Policy Conservation Act, yeah, EPCA, and that it is also consistent with an existing adopted greenhouse gas reduction plan. We have one. So we've taken a preliminary look at that, and we can see consistency between the strategies that were adopted back in 2012 and what's being proposed here. So that is a second option we have, that we could explore adopting the code as part of the 2025 cycle, using that particular exception and making those findings. So that wouldn't come up until more towards the end of the year. But we are trying to present the options that are viable to the City Council for purposes of adopting this ordinance. So that's kind of the timing that we're looking at that's feasible at this moment.
Just a follow-up question regarding that. So you mentioned that by October 1st, that it has to be in effect. So we would have to adopt this code by September 1st or something of that period?
No, it would have to be in effect before October 1st. It would have to have been adopted 30 days prior to that. Because there's a 30-day waiting period for the effective date of an ordinance that's regularly adopted, and this is under the Glendale City Charter.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
So, for example, if looking at realistically at the calendar, the 7th is our next council meeting. We have, I believe, the 16th and the 29th. So conceivably, hypothetically, it could be introduced as an ordinance on the 16th, would come back on the 29th for adoption. 30 days later, that would be before the end of September, it would take effect. And that would be on a regular basis, not on an urgency basis. Under an urgency basis, we'd need to make findings, and that would take effect immediately upon adoption. That's how that works. Based on direction from the City Council, and that's our legislative body. Yeah.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments? Okay.
No, I'm more than happy to move to.
Well, I haven't spoken.
Oh,
yet,
I'm sorry,
so-
you haven't spoken at all.
Just giving everyone else a chance to weigh in here. So I remember earlier when we were talking about the REACH code that there was solar as part of that, so it all penciled out. So I see that this one doesn't have a solar component to it, which is interesting. But the idea of switching, moving away from gas, is great. But I keep thinking about somebody, like today it was 93, like if my air conditioning went out, I mean, my house was built in 1925, so I would fall under this. But, it would be, even affluent people are like, oh my God, my air conditioning's out, that's a lot of money, and so, but then I'd have to add to that cost, having to upgrade, I have a heater that's working, so that's not offline, but having to put in this heat pump would be very expensive. Plus, also, they have to come and analyze. It's not a question of like they unplug the old one, haul it away, and then plug in the heat pump. It's not like that. They have to analyze the building itself, what existing ductwork there is, what kind of air conditioning needs it has, and things like that. The orientation of the building, and all kinds of things have to happen. Plus, like if I didn't want to go electric, because like maybe my 1925, panel couldn't support the additional electrical demand, what would that part look like for people? Because it just sounds like, there's a heat wave going on, and now somebody's being dropped into this situation where they have to get a permit or get, like, who determines that the person's electrical panel would have to be upgraded? In other words, they would be exempt because of that. Like, could that take weeks to happen? And then meantime, that person is, suffering through a heat wave. I'm just trying to figure out I think we have to have answers for all that before it goes to city council, because they're going to be asking those kinds of questions. It's like what kind of, bureaucracy might be kicking in here in the middle of a heat wave when somebody's just trying to stay alive. And so I'm just worried about that piece of it. Like how, have they worked out? Are they prepared to answer those kind of questions to city council? Like what is triggered when your AC goes out in the middle of a heat wave and all you want is for your house to be cool? And, are we talking like weeks before they could expect to have a heat pump solution, or to be able to just replace the one? Like right now, I could probably have a new unit in a few days, but it sounds like now I would have to demonstrate that my panel doesn't support that and this sort of thing. So I'm just wondering if that piece of it's been figured out. Is it someone from the city that has to come out to do that, or is a contractor, will they take their word for it to say that the panel can't be used, that they would require extensive electrical upgrades in order to support that, or do we know?
So I think in that circumstance, regarding the panel, the contractor would speak with the homeowner and would identify this panel that you have would not support a heat pump. So with that, you take that to the building official, present that information to them as you pull your permit, just say, this, we cannot support a heat pump in this. And then they'll make that determination. They'd agree with you or not agree with you and go forward. But that determination would be made by the building official. In terms of timelines and equipment, that's a really good question. I think we're just going to City Council at this point saying, if you want, it is feasible and it is cost effectiveness to develop this REACH code. If you want us to go ahead and do it, we will develop the model ordinance language, and then we can look at issues like that, which you're right, are very pertinent. Maybe there is an exemption for, I don't know if it's, I don't know. That's something that we'd have to think about though, and present to City Council.
Yeah, I just, it's, from what I'm hearing, it has to be turned around really quickly to be implemented by the end of September. So so my advice would be to try to sort out some of this, because I just have a feeling there are members of, this has to have a large majority as a REACH code, and I just have a feeling you might run into some obstacles if it's not made really streamlined and like the exemptions are really clear, like if your house is built before 2010, that's a clear thing, but then is my panel up to that level? That's not so clear, and maybe if it had a cap on like with getting your car smog, there was a cap on like how much you'd be forced to spend to bring your car up to compliance. At least historically they had that. So maybe something like that would help allay concerns of people who are thinking about those that are on limited incomes that might not be able to swing. Because even if their panel is enough, like do they really, can they swing that upfront cost like that? That sort of thing. So that would be my advice. I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm just saying that there's some other exceptions that just haven't come up, and just when we're trying to be, to think about climate equity and the people that are most impacted during heat wave are the ones of the lowest income. And if we've thrown this other roadblock to being able to get an AC, maybe there's a loaner, AC they can use in the meantime or something like that. I don't know, just something to get people through the heat wave without dying, I think would be nice. I'd hate to think that somebody was dying because they couldn't get air conditioning in time, that there was all this bureaucracy that they couldn't deal with. And so it just needs to be like super clear and streamlined and, you know, like we have streamlined things for solar and things like that. So that would be my advice.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, I just want to provide some clarification on the dates and the timing. With the exact dates, I have my calendar open, so the intention is to bring this item to the City Council next week for their consideration direction on developing or filling in the model ordinance and bringing it back to them on the 19th for introduction. And then it would come back on the 26th of August for adoption, to be adopted on a regular basis, taking effect within 30 days. I just wanted to clarify
That's a really
that.
fast turnaround.
It is. The other option, of course, is to do it on an urgency basis.
Right.
Would take effect immediately upon adoption.
Right. Yeah, I'm just, concerned about some of the implementation parts of it and leaving behind people of limited income and means and so on, who are the ones who are be most likely to be living in the older buildings and that sort of thing. So
I'm just thinking about that concern, and I think that is warranted in some cases. But I guess I'm from the reading I've done about heat pumps, which is a little bit. I guess it's worth emphasizing or noting that this is like tried and true technology that's been around for a long time. And I think that's something that maybe staff can kind of emphasize with this too, is that like, I don't know if it's true necessarily that we would need, that there would need to be a 2-week extended time to do something like this. I think for the most part, a lot of this is kind of able to be done in kind of a relatively similar capacity to putting in a new AC system, is my impression from what I've been reading. And so I think if that's really the case, I think that could help allay some of the concerns of council members. There are other examples, I'm sure, around California where something like this might have been adopted, or other stories that could at least be highlighted of this working well. So I think that's something that's worth mentioning. And heat pumps I know have been used around the world for a long time. I think in a lot of countries. I think, as my understanding is, the U.S. is like a little bit slow when it comes to adoption. So we can even look to other countries as examples. But I think the heat pump, or excuse me, the heat wave concern is warranted. But I would say that that's going to be an issue for anyone. My impression is it would be an issue for anyone trying to do anything in the summer in the middle of a heat wave. Like, you're probably going to have quite a lot of, you'd probably have just as much of an issue getting an AC unit potentially, at least when it comes to a newer one, installed in quickly, because there are many other homeowners that I think are facing the same issue, or could be. But maybe, this is something that we could, as a city, really try to encourage in a way proactively. It really shouldn't be something that is being done reactively. Like, we don't want homeowners to be put in a bind like that. And so I think having the rebates that are available, having a clear messaging about this program as being all the benefits that we've talked about that have been highlighted already. For homeowners, the increased energy efficiency, the climate benefits, all of that. I think if that can be emphasized and shown, there might be homeowners that are maybe willing to make the switch before it's even something they have to do. So that's at least my mind, what I'm thinking about when it comes to something like that. So
there have been significant supply chain issues for heat pump systems and. So.
Yeah.
May
Jennifer?
I ask a question? Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, great. So that would be, I think, very useful information for staff to provide to council is, if you have an existing central AC unit, how onerous or different is the permit process to install a heat pump? Or are you able in Glendale to install a heat pump without a permit if you've got a permitted AC unit? I don't know, but can we find out information? Can we ask staff, have heat pumps gone in? And what was the permit process? and how long did it take? I think having those specifics available would be very helpful for City Council.
Do we know if it, I've never replaced my AC unit, so I don't know if it takes a permit. Do you know?
So I think the permit process is agnostic of the technology, right? It's just you replacing the air conditioner or a heat pump. It'll be the same process, wouldn't be delayed, I don't think, necessarily because it's a heat pump. But we can find out what the average turnaround time is for somebody applying for a permit and then receiving that permit to either install or upgrade the AC.
Yeah, that would be good to know. Okay, does anyone else have any questions?
I would also be interested though, are you starting the permit process from scratch if you go from an HVAC to a heat pump? How is that treated? What do they need to inspect? Because if you've got existing venting, what really has changed? So if your central HVAC quits, do you have to get a permit to put in a new HVAC system? So just all those, that would be helpful just for parallel information. HVAC to HVAC, you have to get a permit. I'm assuming you do, but I don't know.
Thank you, Commissioner Pinkerton. We'll find out that information.
So I was just doing some reading after hearing what your questions were, and I think the biggest barrier between converting from an AC to a heat pump unit seems to be like the question of the ducts and how some ducts, they might have to be adjusted and stuff like that. But so I did some reading, and one of the greatest alternatives, especially if the problem with the duct is the size of the duct and adjustments has to be made, would a ductless mini split heat pump also qualify, as there's no adjustments that need to be made to the duct itself, but it would be a different unit than the traditional heat pump, but it still qualifies as a heat pump?
That is correct.
So in that case, the ductless mini split heat pump, it doesn't require a duct to be made, and it's only a small, what I'm reading, it's a 3-inch hole drilled into the unit itself, so homeowners won't have to worry about getting an entire great adjustments to be made to their existing duct in order for a whole new system to be installed, such as a heat pump. So I feel like maybe introducing that as an alternative would encourage homeowners to honestly consider it as an option, because no major adjustments have to be made to the original structure of the home other than a 3-inch hole. So just maybe introducing that to council.
Yeah, thank you. Putting a 3-inch penetration through your wall is not a small thing, but speaking as a certified construction contract administrator, but that also assumes that there's somewhere to put it on the other side. The equipment has to sit somewhere, and I understand that those are much louder than some other units, and so you're thinking about noise pollution for neighboring units. A lot of these setbacks are getting smaller and smaller all the time, so people are getting closer and closer to their neighbor, and are they going to put that right below their neighbor's bedroom window or something like that? So there's some considerations. It's not quite as I mean, on paper it sounds like, oh yeah, just cut a 3-inch hole in your wall, but it's what's on each side of that wall, what infrastructure, you might have to pour a concrete pad or something to support the equipment, and if it's within that 5-foot setback, maybe you can't do it at all, and that sort of thing. But hopefully it could go on the same footprint that the old equipment was on, one would hope. But
and certainly a 3-inch hole would be better than redoing all of your ductwork if it's not sized properly, I would assume. I don't know for sure, but I would hope that that's a reasonable, I think.
But those have a smaller capacity, so if you have a large home, those split units, you may have to have multiple ones of those to cool the entire home. But it's all things to work out. But I'm just thinking, given the quick turnaround, I'm trying to play devil's advocate a little bit and just think of some of the comments that you might get back and considerations that that they're going to have, I think, when this comes up.
So in the cost benefit analysis, I have two questions about it. Does it consider the costs for any kind of duct work changes? And does it consider that system, the ductless system, the mini split heat pump?
So the cost benefit analysis was done on a model residence. So that is a 1,600 foot, 1-story house with 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and then et cetera, et cetera. So they'd use that one model. And that's why with the REACH code pass, they had one where there was no duct improvements and the one where there was duct improvements. So the ducting and the maintenance was included as part of the installation in the cost effectiveness study.
And was that that system
No, because
tested?
it was modeled, as I said, it was modeled on a 1,400 or 1,500 square foot house with a ducted system.
So the cost, the first year cost, the $3,698. So that's equipment, labor, upgrades to ducting, all in. And that's a cost that's above and beyond what just replacing their air conditioner would be, I assume.
So yeah, so as I said, in the cost analysis includes installation, equipment, replacement, and maintenance costs. So where that, I believe where that ducting system had to replace, that would have been included in the cost analysis. I assume.
But not if their electrical panel has to be upgraded to support the equipment.
In the cost analysis, they did, I believe, include upgrade to the electrical panel.
Those numbers look a little low for an upgrade to an electrical panel. I think that would be substantially more of an upcharge to that, but interesting. Okay, so if anyone has any other comments or questions before we ask for a motion?
Yeah, sorry, just another question for Mr. Jones. So the ductless mini split heat pump would qualify under this new, or would it not, as it's not the traditional heat pump?
Yes, you'd be able to install that type of system if that's what you wanted to do.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, so would anyone like to make a motion? I believe there was a printout of the.
We do have a motion included after the staff report that the Sustainability Commission recommends the City Council direct staff to prepare a REACH code that would require installation of a heat pump as a primary heating source or other energy conservation improvements in cases where an existing air conditioning system is altered or replaced, or where an air conditioning system is added.
Yeah, I think that sounds pretty good, except for the altered part. I think just needs to be a little bit clearer on what that means, that it does not include repairing an existing one, for example. But
We'll clarify that.
Well, I'm excited to move the item as read. I would love to see something like this go forward. So,
okay, so we have a motion. Commissioner Pinkerton?
Yes.
Were you interested in seconding, or?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I second the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion. So roll call, please.
Commissioner Pinkerton?
Yes.
Commissioner Bazemore?
yes.
Chairperson Warner?
Yes.
Ready? Next item 6, reports and information. 6A, waste diversion programs. Etienne, can you hear me?
Yes, good evening. Good evening, commissioners and staff of the Sustainability Office. I'm very happy to be able to present to you an update on what Integrated Waste Management, the Division of Public Works in the city, has been up to. Nora, if you could line up the presentation. Thank you. So this is our team. We're about 60 odd people that work in the field, and we're a division of Public Works under the leadership of our director, Daniel Hernandez, and as well as my supervisor, Dan Hardgrove. Next slide, please. The way we're split up is we have the majority of our staff, about 2/3, that do the operations. That's the daily services, collecting refuse, recycling, organics, and bulky item, as well as the cleanup services, which include street sweeping and dealing with illegal dumping, abandoned items, and also street beautification. So that's the bulk of our staff dedicated to the field services. Under my umbrella, I have the call center, which has 5 individuals that answer the phones and act for answering questions for the public on not just integrated waste issues, but a lot of questions from other divisions of the Public Works Division. As well, we have the under outreach and compliance. I have 3 very, very able staff members that handle the contracts that we have, about 8 to 12 contracts. We also coordinate the franchise hauler program. So as you know, we have 4 haulers that operate in the area. SB 1383 compliance and community outreach. Next slide. So under residential collection services, we have the 3-stream collection services, trash, which is taken to Shoal Canyon at this time, recycling, which goes to the recycling center, the organics, which presently go to City Terrace, which is located in East Los Angeles, as well as a dedicated route for collecting horse manure that has about 90 customers, and that manure is taken to the Griffith Park center that's operated by Los Angeles. As well as I mentioned before, we have bulky and abandoned items, street sweeping, beautification, and we added to our menu this year the storm cleanup. Next slide, please. So under residential collection services, all of these programs that I'm going to talk about this evening, I'm just going to give you a thumbnail. They're all, each one of them is a conversation on its own. So I'm just presenting you the facts and the summary of what we do and how well we do. So with regards to residential collection services, that's what we conduct in-house. You can see that our trash, basically 2/3 of it is landfilled, and about 10% of it ends up being recycled through our recycling center, and about 25% goes to the organics at City Terrace. And while the tonnage fluctuates a little bit, our 35% diversion rate has been very, very steady for 6-7 years, as far as my history goes back with the city. So that's with regards to the material that's picked up every day from our city collection services. Next slide. We also have the 4 haulers that are operating under the franchise system, and they have about 5,600 accounts between the 4 of them. And the compliance rate, and by this I mean at the bottom left, the amount of subscriptions that their customers have, that either they have recycling service or they have organic service, or they have an exemption from the SB 1383 requirements. So you can see that our subscription levels are very high, and that's largely a result of when we implemented the franchise program at the same time that we implemented SB 1383 requirements. It just made sense to kind of dovetail the requirements at that time, and which gives us a very good subscription levels. That's the account recycle compliance part of it. Now, in terms of actual tonnage diverted, and that's the information on the right, you can see that 89.65%, so about 90% of the material that's collected is landfilled, about 7% is recycled, and about 3% is diverted for organics. And that it's a little bit higher than the previous year, but not by much. Next slide, please. This is where does the material go? So every truck that spends a day 4 or 6 hours collecting material on the street has to be emptied somewhere. And this gives you a very quick map as to where the material is going. And this is an aggregated map, which means all 4 haulers, as well as the city, that's where the material goes. We have 2 landfills that are used, of course, Shoal Canyon, which is the red star in the middle, and Chiquita Canyon, which is on the left, I believe it's Chiquita Canyon, on the left side, but that's the only 2 landfills that are used by the city of Glendale. All of the other yellow stars are all transfer stations. So for example, when I mentioned City Terrace, which is the bottom right yellow star, that can take a driver anywhere between 1 to 2 to 2.5 hours just to drive there through Los Angeles and drive back and empty. So our limits, we're working with the facilities that we have, but it's quite a challenge to put trucks on the street and deal with the transportation nightmare that everybody deals with. Next slide, please. Our division also conducts route reviews. We both do it for our routes as well as all of the 4 haulers also do route reviews. And that means that every year, each collection route must be sampled for the level of contamination as a way of identifying what outreach focus needs to be developed. So for the residential, we usually conduct that through a contractor. Next slide. And then for the 4 haulers, each one uses their own systems for conducting route reviews. Our job is to aggregate all of this information and have it ready for CalRecycle because they require us to have these records updated every 60 days. So every 2 months, we ask the haulers to identify the level of contamination, give us the information, and then we aggregate the information for our reports. Next slide. Bulky items. That's another huge program for the city because the residents take benefit from having the streets clean. We've been aggressive about bulky item collection for as long as I've been here, since 2019. And you can see that the tonnages, at least for 2024, have been very stable in terms of about 200 tons of material collected every month, not only by us, but also by the 4 franchise haulers. So we aggregate all the information to keep track of trends. This particular graph shows a fairly level trend, but during COVID, it was at much higher levels. Customer service. We, as you can see from the graph, our call center handles about 2,500 to 4,500 calls a month, but we also have a coordinated way of tracking the calls that are received by the waste haulers. So if someone calls our call center and says, I'm serviced by your hauler, can you come and pick this stuff up? And we typically simply take the call and refer it immediately to the hauler. A few years ago, when we started this, there was more of a delay in getting the information to the hauler, but right now, since about 2 years ago, it's immediate. The hauler gets the request and they jump on it just the same way that we jump on our requests. So you can see that from 2021, the number of calls have subsided. 2021 was the implementation of the franchise program, but the level of calls that we handle are fairly standard, fairly consistent over years. Next slide. We also coordinate community events. We're a very visible face at summer school camps, as well as Earth Day and cruise nights. We handle all of the media, the city connections, bus signs, bill inserts, all of this information, as well as campaigns that we participate in. New to our menu about 2 years ago was the Recycle Coach app. And you can see that since January 2024, this actually works with the previous slide about the call center. After Christmas, there's always a flood of calls with regards to missed collections due to the holiday season, or people didn't know that that they forgot to put their cans out. Can we come and service them? But excuse me, but the usage of our new tool, Recycle Coach, has consistently increased since we implement that back in 2023, back in the fall of 2023. And as you can see, that's okay, that's enough. I want to report a missed pickup is the #1 item, and requesting a bulky pickup item is also on top of the list of the requests we get. With regards to schools, we coordinate a variety of programs. We subsidize the tours to the Discovery Cube, as well as assemblies that are handled by Mr. Eco, if you're familiar with that. Here's a list of the schools that they've presented in 2024. We also facilitate performances by the environmental defenders, as well as the summer camp. So this gives you a brief idea as to the number of students reached and presentations and number of schools reached. So we're very busy behind the scenes coordinating events in the schools. This is more of a one of those invisible programs, as well as the 4 franchise haulers that provide services. We also have oversight over about 20 haulers that are permitted to collect construction demolition material. And that's primarily a program that's run by the buildings department, but in terms of the tracking of the tonnage and the fees that they have to pay, and also auditing their records on an annual basis. As you know, we have a recycling center, and for those of you who took advantage of the tour that Nora coordinated about 2 weeks ago, we have the recycling center that's been in operation since 2006. We have that contract with the Allen Company, and we are presently completing work on a master plan, which evaluates, well, basically asks the question, what are we going to do with the trash and the recyclables and the organics for the next 20 years? So it's not the recycling center is a piece of the puzzle, but as you remember from the map I showed before, the trash has got to find some place, the trash, recycling, and organics has to find a place to stay after it's collected out of the city of Glendale, and we have to have a plan for the next 20 years. So we're just finalizing the master plan right now, and the plan consists of 3 alternatives to continuing operations and a phase plan for facility improvements. Composting programs, you're probably familiar with the 4 events that we have hosted every year for the last 3 or 4 years. And this year, adding to the menu of offerings, we've contracted with LA Compost. They will be a presence, they all have already started being a presence at the Montrose Farmers Market. And they're developing 3 neighborhood composting clusters, one in Dunsmore Park. The other one is a revitalization of the 2 community gardens that we have. One is at Palmer Pocket Park and Verdugo Park. So during the summer, they will be our boots on the ground in terms of creating awareness for those 3 neighborhood clusters, composting clusters. So the picture on the bottom left is an example of the kind of clusters they will be developing. And we're very happy with our relationship with LA Compost. And the third element of our composting programs is we've been doing free backyard composting bin distribution. We've been doing that for some years now. And over the course of the last 4 years, we've distributed about 629 composting bins. So our 2 events for composting are going this fall in September and October. Edible food recovery is also a program that I'm very proud of, because you can see from the graph the amount of food recovered. And this is the SB 1383 Edible Food Recovery Program, which includes 79 Tier 1 and Tier 2 commercial generators, as well as about 8 of the food pantry organizations. So this program is a highly networked program that includes our partnership with Recreate Collaborative, as well as I want to say LA Compost. That's what's in my mind, but that's not them. Food Cycle LA, and in the last year, our funding was expanded to be able to include the actual collection of the material, because one of the biggest challenge with edible food recovery is you have it, you want to pick up the phone and have someone move it. And so being able to address that last element has really helped us increase the recovery of edible food in the city of Glendale. And, you know, the tonnage that I have, because it's a regional program, even though we keep track of it for the city of Glendale, for the SB 1383 reporting, it's highly regional. The partners are highly regionalized, and they work with other cities and other food pantries. So this is just, what I'm showing you here is just specific to the city of Glendale. Last but not least, our Green Business Program, which I presented on before, and the numbers have been very stable. Up to this year, we were contracting out the service, and this year we had a change in policy or change in approach, because we felt that between the Edible Food Program, the Green Business Program, there was too much of a silo effect that prevents these programs from being very comprehensive. You know, when you send staff out in the field, you like to be able to have that conversation with the business owners about all the options that are out there, not just program specific. And this year, now that we've taken that directly under our umbrella, we're also having a conversation with Glendale Water and Power to see how the Green Business Program can dovetail with their rebates and their program as well, because we have staff that's out there in the field, and so which we've built over years. So it makes sense to kind of encompass or include the elements that is GWP centric and handle some of the promotion for them. But this right now is just in the conversational stage, because there's just a lot of aligning of the priorities to make a program like this work. And that is my presentation for this evening. But as I mentioned at the beginning, it was just my intention to just give you a bunch of conversation starters. And I mean, I'm happy to answer questions right now, or I'm happy to for you to dig deeper by sending emails or corresponding after the meeting.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Do we have questions from any of the commissioners?
Yeah, I guess I can go first. Just a couple things. So thank you, Mr. Ozark, for the presentation. Appreciate it. I remember when you came last year and gave your update as well then. So I'm glad that we're having you back, and would love for this to kind of be an annual thing potentially, if that's if that interests you. Let's see. So regarding the compliance for the vendors, and the I guess if we could pull up the slides, Nora, that'll help me a lot, just so I can refer to those. So let's see. Yeah, so maybe that last one. So this says the previous one. Yeah, yeah, you got it. And then maybe even go back one more slide once you do. Yeah. So this is route reviews conducted by, I just want to make sure this is clear. This is route reviews conducted by the city of Glendale. Is that right? For the Glendale serviced accounts?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. And then for the next slide, when it says commercial, these are for commercial, like franchise
These are all-
haulers is what it means. It's not
The
commercial.
franchise holders,
Okay,
correct.
that's part
So
of my
you-
confusion. I wasn't sure if this was referring to like commercial businesses. Okay, okay. All right. I'm surprised by these numbers, frankly. I mean, I am impressed maybe that so few of the selected bins are contaminated. But you know, I've only looked at my own as a sample, and amongst the other users that I share it with, you know, I'm always surprised by how much cardboard ends up in the dumpster. Let's just say that. So for the trash one specifically, kind of following off my last point, what is contaminated in that case? Does that mean organics, or does that also include recycling ending up in the trash?
That's what they call contaminants in the trash is when they notice, for example, Southland, cardboard, food, paper bottles. They're saying that shouldn't be in the trash.
Oh, I see on these other, thank you. I'm just looking mostly at Athens up there. All
Yeah.
right, so that's what they're
And
referring to
Athens,
is cardboard, food, paper bottles as well.
Things that should be in the right container that aren't in the right container.
Got it, okay. All right, let's see. For the self-monitoring that you said they do they each follow kind of a similar set of protocols for that, or are they all operating? You can stay on that slide, Nora. It's referring to that
Okay.
same thing. Are they all kind of operating differently when it comes to this, or is there sort of a standard protocol that they all follow?
With regards to the route reviews?
Correct. Yeah. And these audits.
Yeah, each one will have their own protocol. There are some guidelines that are prepared by CalRecycle. They're not regulations, they're just guidelines. So for example, for residential, the way I'm familiar with them because I know my system, each route would have at least a minimum of about 30 samples, which and it's a low percentage. It's not like you have to do the whole route, but some of the haulers do have cameras where they can take pictures, and they do take pictures. So it gives them a facility of being able to identify better than just a visual observation, because obviously you're not going to go open the lid of a 3 cubic yard dumpster and unless you can, open the lid and figure out the contamination from that. So each one has their own system that they've devised because they also work with other jurisdictions. So they have to figure out a way to do it.
Right. Does that pose any difficulties for aggregation? Because I'm just looking at this table a little more closely, for instance, I'm noticing that for Southland, they're reporting what looks like almost, if you just take cardboard, of the 457 that they surveyed, there's over 321 that are contaminated, whereas
where they've noticed,
whereas you go up to Athens and theirs is only 11. Then I'm noticing on the right-hand side, actually, we don't even have metrics for those at all. Is that something is it just cut off on the slides, perhaps? Or do we just not get those?
No, it's not. It's because Athens uses a very different system for sorting material. They have a very different approach, a very effective approach for sorting material that's pretty bad. So that's why for them, ability to absorb is much higher, to absorb contamination and deal with it. So that's not simply landfill, is a lot higher than the other three haulers.
Okay, I guess I'm just thinking
But
about this as a way to report on like homeowner compliance, because if what it's sounding like is that the hauler is doing this kind of post, what it sounds like you're saying is Athens
Collection.
will sort it themselves, and then they'll consider certain things to be contaminated or not. Is that what you're saying?
Right, and that's why in the previous slide, you'll see where I show the tonnage, that shows a fairly, not the previous slide to that one. Nope, that was after. Should be before. I think we're going the wrong way. We are going the wrong way. This one, yes. This is where you can see in 2024, the trash, 90% ended up in the landfill. Recycling, only 7% ended up in recycling and 3% in organics. And I think this is where the, when you look at the aggregate, you say this is not very good. Even though people have the service, there's a huge challenge in getting the individual tenant to actually do the right thing. The logistics of, collecting trash or from the homeowner or the property man, the tenant, I meant, to actually the bin and actually having it collected is huge. And that's, at this point in time, there's things that are being done. For example, we do send contamination notices to customers. In some cases, you have customers that just don't want to do it. We still have that, and they are charged contamination fees. But the information you were looking at with regards to cardboard, for example, it allows us to say generally, how should we target our outreach? What are the bad boys? What are the heavy hitters, the places that we can really focus when we look at the aggregate?
Right.
So, and that's the best we can do. But in terms of individual behavior, that's going to be one at a time. In the case of residential collection, for example, and some of the haulers do this as well. They place oops tags on the carts and they say, your cart was noticed having X, Y, and Z, and as a way to kind of inform that particular customer of the contaminants.
So on that, is that information that you collect from the haulers or capture even from the city of Glendale's hauling? Are you making note of how often you have to?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
we track, we get reports from the haulers, not from individual addresses, but in terms of the residential oops tags, we do keep track. We're actually required to keep track of our actions for SB 1383 compliance.
Got it. Yeah. I think for future years, that might be something that would be worth bringing. I would love to see that information, kind of where things stand. For me, I mean, and I think for maybe the purposes, if I can speak for this commission, is I think we really want to know what that's looking like for our residents. How is the sorting going, and how is the kind of management of that being handled by the haulers, by the city? So that does kind of lead into maybe my next point. I think for you and the integrated waste is like, what are the performance measures that you're using? Like, what are the goals that are set? Because I know there's state goals, state numbers, but with regards to what we're seeing here, it would be nice to get a sense of what
progress,
what you're shooting for. Yeah, I'd like to know what progress looks like. We can look at a year over year, that's great, but I do want to get a sense of where the department is trying to go. What are you reaching for when it comes to kind of making gains on some of these kind of environmental goals, if you will. So in terms of like looking at, for instance, we can skip ahead, Nora, to the, let's see, the food diversion, for instance.
Edible food, right.
Yeah, like that's something that's great, but it's hard to get a sense of like what's out there that's maybe already going to waste, and what of that are we capturing? And this doesn't quite show that. I know that might be a figure that's hard to know, like, but even having a percentage and then showing how that percentage is growing over time, that would be, I think, a really useful data point for us to discuss here. And so,
yeah, well, with this particular program, you know, it's at first 3 years ago we were dealing with estimates. You know, what estimates based on state averages. And then part of the program that we put on the ground included an app called Carrot, which allowed the user to document what they were actually getting, wanting to get rid of. And so that's where the tracking is not just an estimate, it's actually, it's actually, you know, the tonnage, not an estimate. But also the other part of it too, which is very important, is we've had the same vendor and the same staff visit these people for the last 3 years. So, you know, you can see in the first year, they were kind of like, okay, I think I get it. And, you know, you would go 2 months later and the staff would have changed or whatever. But over time, when they see the same face, they understand the program, and you can see that's part of the learning curve. The success is that we stayed on top of it, and we were able to kind of just say the amount of edible food recovered is going to grow only if we keep showing up and we keep helping out, and eventually it gets cemented into their consciousness. Now, some grocery stores, like, for example, Trader Joe's, they can run without us, and other grocery stores as well. But when you're talking about hospitals, because this includes hospitals as well, it's difficult to just say, this is another requirement, can you work with us? So the hand-holding has been intense for them, but that's the only way that we can reach these goals. Now, with regards to commercial recycling, the biggest challenge, and anyone in the industry knows, is how do you get compliance in multifamily properties? You know, you can't just put a bin on the first floor and put a sticker on the elevator shaft and hope that people are going to participate. That is the monster. And that's the monster that everyone in California is dealing with. And so what we have to do is to say, okay, if that can only go so far at capturing material, what other options do we need to pursue to make at least the capture of CRV much more robust? And we are looking at other programs that include having neighborhood clusters for the drop-off of CRVs, because people who live in the north part of Glendale, if they want to recycle and if they want to make sure that the material is recycled, they're not likely to drive, you know, the 20 minutes to our recycling center and make sure that the material is recycled. So there's a lot of things that we have to do in partnership with the four haulers to say, this model that we're using across California is only going to go so far to capture the recyclable material. The other part of it too, and this is kind of a long discussion, but I'll just identify it for you, is the SB 54 new initiative, the new law, which will streamline what we call recyclable and what is non-recyclable, because a lot of the contamination that we get is not because people don't, it's basically because people are confused about what's going to go in the recycling bin and what doesn't. And SB 54 is as giant as SB 1383 was in terms of trying to clean up the recycling mess. So what SB 54 will do is it'll say, if your recycling center these are the items called recyclable. And the SB 54 is working with the industry, the packaging industry, to clarify what is recyclable and what is not recyclable. And that's going to help all of us in the long run.
That is great news. I've read about that a little bit, and it's very encouraging that those sorts of changes are being made by the manufacturers too. They're falling in line with this.
Yeah, if you want a presentation just on that, it's worth it, but I wouldn't do that to the commission this evening.
Last thing, and then I'll hand it off to the other commissioners. So for the composting clusters you mentioned at the park, that's being overseen by LA Compost, is that correct?
Well, it's being overseen by us.
By you,
They're working under contract with us.
Correct, okay.
So we're providing them the guidance to get that started. And just to mention as well, this was an initiative that that David Jones worked with me about 1.5 years ago in terms of he got the ball rolling, and we just say let's help you with this. But I want to make sure it's understood that this was something that a ball he started rolling.
Excellent. That's good to hear. I did want just a little more clarity, though, on what exactly this entails. So there are these composting sites at the parks. I understand that LA Compost is collecting material at the Montrose Farmers Market. Thank you. There's the drop-off.
Yes.
Is this going to be, I guess, tell us about what this is going to look like. So I'm just trying to take in everything on this slide right now. I'm seeing a note about a multifamily housing composting pilot. Can you just speak to this program a little more?
Okay, yes. And Pasadena has those clusters in place, and LA Compost developed this program with the city of LA. But the 3 bins that you see, the 3 orange areas, allow the material to be placed in the first area. If you know, for people who know about composting, then when it starts breaking down, it's transferred to the second area. And the third area, you have the cured compost that can then be, added to the gardens. So the building of those enclosures, the monitoring of those enclosures, the training that goes with for the people using them. LA Compost is kind of like the ones who check up and make sure everything's clean, everything's turned, everything's fine for the users. And when we toured the city of Pasadena, for example, the people who use it, they register for it, they obtain the training, they obtain an access key to be able to go into, because this is not just open, anybody can bring your stuff. You have to register and be part of it. And that works better as a neighborhood cluster. But then once the compost is produced, then the people can use it in the gardens that are right there. Okay. If any of you have seen those gardens at Verdugo Park and Palmer Pocket Park as well, those have been going on for some years. They're a little bit overgrown, so it helps to have boots on the ground, because it's not something that our Parks Department can really manage closely as those sites need to be.
Got it. Okay, so just to wrap this up, so it sounds like this is available for any resident that registers.
Yes.
And then they can come and deposit and then potentially take cured compost, right? And then it's maybe something that the community garden members would have kind of by default, since they're located next to the community gardens, or they've also registered and can use it. Is that right?
Right.
Okay.
And anybody who's got a plot, it will be part of this.
Okay. But again, anyone outside of the community garden can also register and come and use this. I see.
Yeah, anybody that wants a plot signs up for a plot, and then they can bring their material and take away their tomatoes and spices.
All right, thank you. I'll hand it off. I might have more questions later on, but thank you.
Commissioner Pinkerton, did you have any questions?
Yeah,
I figured you would.
Number of questions, yes. Number of questions, comments, and thank you very much, Etienne, for doing this. I probably will follow up with an email, but I just wanted to throw out some questions and comments. So am I understanding that Glendale's diversion rate then is 10%?
The recycling is 10% and the green waste about 25%. It's been stable at 36%.
Oh, total. Okay, aggregate.
Yeah,
36.
aggregate,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. No, that's respectable. I think for context, one thing that might be helpful for people to just put this in better perspective is what percentage of the waste stream, meaning the three streams, is under the control of the city, meaning collected by the city, and what percentage of the entire waste stream is collected by the franchised haulers. So everybody has an understanding, is the city responsible for 40 or 80%, or the haulers responsible, what percentage that is?
Yeah, well, yeah, I can't give you a percentage off the top, but I can tell you the city has about 33,000 accounts versus the business, the commercial has about 5,800 accounts.
Okay, so the city dwarfs what the franchisees are responsible for. Okay, but then those are potentially many of them are much larger accounts in terms of waste generation.
Yes.
Yes, large multifamily or commercial. Let's skip that question. One thing I noticed, when I drive through the city, I look at trash bins, recycling bins, commercial facilities, and it strikes me that there seems to be a need for a lot of, this could be wrong, but there seems to be a need for a lot of right sizing. I see businesses with cardboard, too few recycling bins. I see cardboard boxes placed adjacent to the recycling bins. I've seen a lot of large businesses. There's a food importer on San Fernando where they seem to have too few recycling bins or dumpsters, and the cardboard is exposed to the elements. I know I helped draft an ordinance for some cities in Orange County, and one of the things we mandated was covers, because you don't want your cardboard's one of your really valuable materials. You don't want that getting wet when it rains. And I realize rain is infrequent here, but it seems like there's a need for right sizing. So that's just one comment. I seem to see too few recycling bins at a lot of businesses, for example. Commissioner Bazemore was talking about the performance measures for each of the haulers. It probably would be helpful to explain that each has to divert so many tons under their contract, and by what the compliance dates for that.
Yes, that diversion requirement, unfortunately, was not part of the franchise agreement.
It's not. We don't have a compliance requirement.
We do not. We don't require them to meet certain thresholds, certain diversion thresholds. That was not made part of the franchise agreements.
Okay, that just strikes me. I should have known that, but that just strikes me as bizarre, because then how do you? Because the whole point of the franchise is to improve services and increase diversion.
Right.
So basically, you could achieve no diversion as a franchise hauler, but that's okay because you're not compelled to achieve any diversion. I've never heard that being done.
Well,
wow.
That is the reality of the franchise agreements with the haulers.
Why? Okay, I won't ask the why. I'm sure it's a complex answer, but if you don't have performance agreements, I don't know. That just strikes me as, how is the city going to increase its overall diversion if we don't hold the franchise haulers responsible for achieving certain diversion, the percentages or tonnages? When do the franchise contracts expire?
They went in place in December 2021. So
they're 10-year or 5 plus 5?
10 years, yeah.
10-year. Okay, so I'm sorry, 2021?
Yes.
So we have to wait until 2031 in theory.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll have to talk to some council members. That just just floors me. So will that make sense that I see a lot of wrong sizing as far as the amount of bins at businesses? And one thing I do just want to offer for public consumption is, I understand why cities went to franchise agreements, but there is an inherent conflict because haulers make money largely they've made money out landfilling. So it's not necessarily, especially if we don't have diversion mandates, it's not in their best interest to have their customers recycle more or compost more. So we've got that inherent conflict there, in my opinion. And one thing I've noticed, at least in Los Angeles, we don't have the haulers doing any education or outreach about zero waste, in essence, how not to generate waste in the first place. But if they don't have diversion mandates, they have no incentive. I mean, they don't have an incentive anyway, but if we don't have diversion mandates for them, I see that as a huge gaping hole. We're not educating businesses how to reduce waste generation in the first place. I just want to throw out that I'm certified in zero waste. I'd be happy to help develop materials for businesses. I'm just flabbergasted that there are no diversion mandates. So, but let me move on from there. I wish I shared your optimism about SB 54, but the most recent meeting with the Stewardship Council, the latest verbiage is if packaging, serves purpose protecting a product or its integrity or its safety, it's exempt from SB 54. So personally, I think SB 54 is dead in the water. There's so much lobbying. There are people from state offices that have gone over to industries that don't want to comply with SB 54. So personally, I think it's dead in the water. It was introduced, 4 or 5 years ago. Didn't make out of the 2-year session the first time. I don't personally think it's going anywhere. I'm glad the state put out the ban on styrofoam, but I have no hopes that we will see the demise of a lot of food packaging in particular because it can't achieve certain recycling rates. I mean, I would love to get an update from somebody telling me I'm wrong in that conclusion, but I don't see that ever happening now, which is unfortunate. So those are my comments. I will follow up with an email, but yeah, I'm just puzzled because so what are the performance metrics for the haulers if it's not achieving diversion levels? Is it just basic customer service? X number of bins meet the service frequency? I mean, what are we holding them to account?
Well, it's a question that Cal Recycle, when they created this, they basically said, as long as they have 3 service, they're in compliance. The businesses are in compliance, and everyone should have it. And
right.
For Glendale, everyone does have it. But that's one of the reasons why, as I pointed out in the slide, where the compliance from a Cal Recycle point of view is in the high 90s. We're good. But the actual tonnage, and this is why I present facts. I don't hide those facts. The fact is that the recycling tonnage and the organics tonnage is low, and it's up to the haulers to figure out how are they going to tame that monster, and as well as us. I mean, the residential sector is an easier sell. It's easier to work with. Yes.
Of course, yeah.
But there's a lot of things about working with a commercial world that's easier said than done.
Oh no, absolutely. But I just don't see they have absolutely no incentive to get people to recycle more if they don't have to achieve certain diversion rates. So it seems like the only card we had to play. I mean, LA, the haulers have diversion tonnage requirements.
Yes.
I've just never heard of a franchise contract without those metrics. Because then it's, wow, okay. Well, that explains a lot to me. That explains why I see a lot of recyclables lying outside bins, getting rained on. Okay. Yeah, I mean, they have to tame it, meaning they have to get the bins out, but they don't do rigorous outreach, robust outreach. I don't know. It just seems like we've set ourselves up that I don't know. I don't see this as a model for
Well, I think yeah, but I think you also have to look at with regards to outreach. I mean, there was 2 years ago, we, in collaboration with the haulers, sent a flyer to every single tenant, not just the property manager, but every
right,
single
right.
tenant, just in 3 languages.
Right.
Will that really change the world? It's a huge effort to do that, but you can't legislate goodwill.
No, I'm not, trust me, I'm not diminishing the effort at all. I work in this field and I know how difficult it's fundamentally behavior change. But I've heard complaints from many people that multifamily tenants didn't get food waste buckets. Personally, I have a problem with the food waste buckets because the small size to me conveys that they're just for food waste, not for food soil paper products, pizza boxes, etc. But you know, it's easier, I think, for someone in a single-family home to get their food waste into the green bin versus you know, multifamily tenant who might have to carry things, you know, down a hallway, down an elevator, out to a parking garage or something. Wow, I'm.
Well, just to add, since you're mentioning the food pails, we did, you know, distribute those food pails residential, but we also made them available to the 4 haulers at our cost.
Right.
Yeah. So they were involved in the distribution of those food pails as well.
Oh, of course. But I will tell you one thing. In LA, we did pails, and I'm like, but the pails were used originally for food waste only residential pilot programs, because their sheer size does not easily convey that your pizza box can go in your green bin if it's all greasy. 2 paper plates will fill up one of those pails. A compostable takeout food container will fill up one of those pails. And since Glendale allows homeowners, you know, residents to put the food waste in a clear bag and put that bag into the green bin, I don't know that I would have given out pails. I probably would have subsidized the purchase of clear plastic bags, because the size in marketing, there's a concept called friction. Every additional step you make someone take to achieve a certain outcome, change a habit. So you've got a pail. So do you put your food waste in the pail, but then where do you put your pizza box? Do you carry your pizza box out every day? I tell everybody, put a big bag or huge bowl in your freezer and put all your compostable organics into that, and then dump that into a clear bag once a week and put that in your bin. I just, inherently, the pail to me miscommunicates that there's a whole world out there besides food waste. There's tons of food soiled paper products that should be going into the green bins, and the pail, by its very size, doesn't convey that. And I don't know, I have to get my head wrapped around the fact that we don't have any diversion mandates for the haulers. So truly, I mean, if we're just being factual and honest, what is their incentive to do better?
Well, basically,
I don't see it.
Yeah, they're charging the customers for the 3-stream service.
Right, but what is their incentive to increase diversion? If they don't have to meet diversion tonnage goals, why would they care? Once they put the 3 bins out, why would they care about the contamination rate? Why would they care if a lot of cardboard gets destroyed because it's left outside? I don't see how we close that loop. Anyway, but no, thank you for your time. I don't want to belabor this, but I'm just, wow, somehow I missed that when the franchise agreements were being discussed. So, but thank you again. Appreciate the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Pinkerton. I had a few questions. I was at National Night Out at Palmer Park on Tuesday, and I went to throw away my recyclable beverage container, and I noticed there weren't any recycle bins at Palmer Park. Is that normal, or?
Not sure. That would be the Parks Department.
Okay, so the Parks Department would be the ones to put trash cans at or to recycle bins at the public parks?
Right. We service, the city services certain corridors, like we do the Brand Boulevard containers, and as well as some of the other corridors, but we don't service the parks.
So if the Parks Department puts a recycle bin there, then the Parks Department would also have to be the ones to empty them?
No, I think the city facilities are serviced by the hauler, so, but it's under the oversight of the Parks Department.
So the Parks Department would have to call a hauler to say the recycle bins are full?
Or these are the types of containers that we need. For example, we had issues with containers that were, organic containers that were, provided to the parks for collection of organic material, because, there's quite a bit. And the unfortunate thing is they were just being used for people putting their trash in there, which defeats the purpose of having an organic container. So every park has to be managed in terms of what it needs, and relying on the goodwill of the people who are using the park, and not simply putting trash in whatever container happens to be there.
Chairperson Werner, LA removed recycling bins from parks because they all got scavenged. And everything else that was in there was trash. So if you have a scavenging issue, that may be why there aren't recycling bins.
Well, I'd rather see people come and scavenge the plastic bottles and things than see them go into the landfill, but okay. Yeah, that seems like that's an opportunity for improvement there, but Nora, did you have a question?
Yeah, I can also add on to that. So, for example, when we organized Earth Day Fair at Verdugo Park, it's serviced by Athens. So at that point, I called Athens and I requested for organics, recycling, and waste bins, pop-up bins, to be placed around the park ahead of the event, and then having bins there ahead of the event so that Athens can come collect it from the park, put it in the bins, and then take it away. So that's just something that the event organizer has to also coordinate.
Okay, and then do they charge for that, or is that part of their fee?
No.
We did not get charged since we were city. I'm not sure about private events, but I know there's no charge for us.
Okay, so if
There's no
it's,
charge for it for any city facility.
okay, so even if it's like a large group is having a party there or something, they'll come and pick up their recyclables because it's at a public park?
Right, but
They just have to call in advance.
They just have to make the connection. The same thing with cruise night.
Okay, good to know. I guess we'll add that to the list for next year's National Night Out, that we need to call ahead on that. Okay, we did use aluminum water containers, not plastic, but still wanted to be able to recycle those there. And also, one of my fellow Adams Hill board members was asking for a phone number because she had a complaint about her waste pickup. She wasn't specific, but I was trying to find a phone number. Is it the same as the bulky item pickup, the 548-3916? That's for everything,
yeah.
not just bulky item? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll send her to that one then. And I was wondering, to Commissioner Pinkerton's point about, okay, there's no requirement that the haulers recycle a certain tonnage or what have you of waste, but is there some way that we could have an incentive, thinking outside the box a little bit, instead of, since their contracts won't be up for renewal till like 2030, it'd be nice if there was something that we could come up with that would, I don't know if it's a contest among all the haulers and, the winning one, gets something or gets some, favorable consideration when their contract comes up for renewal or something. But I just think we need to find a way to incentivize them, because if they're incentivized, they're going to, I think, try to, ensure that things are being followed a little bit more than they are. But, and then also that when we were looking at compostable foodware for restaurants and so on, it was, we were made aware that a lot of the haulers, I think there was only one hauler that could recycle any kind of compostable food waste, and another one could recycle some and not others. But I really think that when the RFP goes out for, when they start, bidding on the next 10 years down the road, that they consider putting that in there either as a requirement. I mean, it's enough time will have passed by then. Maybe more of them will be on the, we'll have that capacity, but they should be alerted at least so they can be thinking about this in advance and being prepared for when the contract does come up for renewal, that there'll be strong consideration for the ones that are able to recycle all those different types of foodware.
Yes, the only challenge is the haulers are at the mercy of whatever facilities are available to us. And so if the facilities say, hey, I can't tell the difference between a plastic fork and a compostable fork, I don't want it, then the haulers don't have the choice of, because as I pointed out earlier on, there's only 2 landfills, Shoal Canyon and the other one up north, which his name escapes me off this evening. Chiquita, yeah. And so when they take the material to a transfer station, and the transfer station, like in our case, for example, the residential goes to City Terrace. There, it's split into 2. The green waste goes towards Northridge, and the food waste goes to Puente Hills. But having those forks or plastic knives, you can't tell whether it's plastic or not, and the people at the facility will say, we don't want them. And so you're at the mercy of their policies in terms of whether the material is going to make it through. Even if it's compostable, visually they can't, their system is not set up to handle that.
But the haulers could elect to go to the other dumping location. They can process.
But there's only 2 landfills. There's only 2 landfills to process the material. So they're at the mercy of whatever policies are in place for handling that material.
Right, but you said there's 2 landfills. It sounds like one of them takes that and kind of thing, and one of them.
No, Athens has a different system, but the other 3 haulers, including our residential support facilities, they're not set up to take that material.
If I could jump in for a moment, because I've been researching foodware for several years now. Any rigid plastic, even if it says it's bio-based, it's compostable plastic, has hardeners that make the plastic act as like conventional fossil fuel-based plastics. If compostable in Glendale should mean it's organically derived, so that would mean wood utensils, paper plates without a poly coating. It's very easy for us to define what they should and should not be able to take. And that's another upstream measure when we were looking at the environmental preferable purchasing policy. That's something I think we need to impose. It's an upstream measure. Don't allow sale or use of these so-called compostable plastics in Glendale, because there are no Southern California facilities that take these. And we do a disservice by allowing the sale of items like that that are labeled compostable, but that are not compostable. So it's very easy with utensils and foodware. It's paper-based, fiber-based, bagasse, no poly lining, and then utensils have to be wood, untreated wood, unlacquered wood. These so-called compostable plastics and forks and utensils, they're not. And the best solution to that is an upstream adoption of an ordinance banning their sale. Just wanted to throw that in. So that's how you best deal with that.
So it sounds like Athens is able to recycle things that other ones aren't. I wonder, I know right now that it's kind of evenly split, among the 4 haulers.
Among the 4.
is there a way, when the contracts are up, to give more of the business to the ones that can actually recycle more things like Athens, or are we forced to have 4 different haulers for some reason?
That definitely is going to be a city council conversation.
Yeah, it seems like if they're set up better to haul more things, then something to look at, like maybe they get half the business or something like that, because it sounds like they're doing a better job of recycling and getting things picked up and so on. So whatever this system is that they have, it seems to be the way to go. So why give business to ones that are just seem to be kind of...
They have high efficiency facilities. Other haulers don't, meaning Athens they have more sophisticated equipment and processes, so they can handle things like Etienne mentioned, contaminated cardboard. It's a more sophisticated system.
Yeah. Well, I think if the RFP were to be worded to where they required, all this type of recycling and so on, that the other ones are just going, oh, sorry, can't do it, then that might be a self-correcting problem. Like they won't get bids by the ones that aren't able to do it. So that's something to consider as well. So.
Yeah, if I can just add, implementing the franchise program, that conversation started around 2012 and eventually was implemented in 2021. So it took 9 years to give that program shape. And so now we have it, but now we also have performance data. We have a lot of numbers. We have a lot of tonnage numbers. We have a lot of compliance numbers. We didn't have that amount of information when this program was put in place. So now we have it. So when the next round, when the conversation begins, we have a ton of information that says how well, how far did we go and where can we go now, knowing what we know now. And I think that puts us in a stronger position for the changes in the future, which I guarantee there'll be changes in the future. But in terms of now, we have a lot of information that allows the decision makers to evaluate what they want to see in the future.
Yeah, exactly. So it just seems like the business as usual would not be a good way to go for when they're up for renewal. But the more warning they have in advance, it's like, they need to be thinking of how they're going to continue getting our business. What changes do they need to do? Maybe they can put pressure on the places that they dump at to say, you need to be able to take these other things or something. It has to start with somebody. And so it just seems like people are these haulers are throwing their hands up like, oh, they don't take it, so, oh, well. But if they want to have our business, I think they should be able to do better than that. To Commissioner Pinkerton's point, it's they're kind of getting off easy right now with the waste diversion. And that was about it. Oh, as far as the yay parts, I like that the Recycle Coach app is great, and I like that the My Glendale app, like if I have a bulky item, I can use that app or Recycle Coach app to request that. So I think just, I'm always a huge advocate of something should be as easy to recycle as it was to buy. And so
yes,
we're a ways away from that when it comes to batteries, but has anything happened on that front as far as like trying to make that easier on the public? Because I just have a feeling 90% of them are ending up in the landfills.
Yeah, batteries are handled in the city by the fire department. It's not, we handle some batteries, but the drop off of batteries is primarily a program of the fire department.
Okay. So, yeah, I've dropped some off at the waste management facility before. So I guess they take those to the fire department then, or not?
You mean at the recycling center?
Yeah, at the recycling center.
Yeah. They also package the batteries there as well. I'm sorry, should have mentioned that. They use the same vendor. It's a program called Call to Recycle, and it allows us to ship bulk mixed batteries, which is very unusual because it's a very costly program.
It'd be nice if there was one up in North Glendale, because I know it's, even though I'm in South Glendale, still it's a bit of a hike to get there with my batteries.
Yeah.
but-
I'm sorry, Library Connection should be able to take it. If not, I can follow up for you about that. But they should be able to take your small batteries, the library in
It's hardly ever
Adamsdale.
open. So, or can I put them in the book drop? I mean,
Central also takes it. Central Library.
yeah, so, yeah, they never have parking, so, but, okay, well, yeah, it just seems like there's some opportunity there to make it a little easier. I know some of the Home Depots or Office Depot type places take Staples sometimes, but it's.
Yeah, Home Depot's does as well. Now that you mention it.
For like power tool type batteries or just any battery?
Don't recall off the top, but I've seen their containers when you come in the door for fluorescent bulbs, as well as batteries.
Okay, cool. Okay, so that was it for me. Did you have anything?
Now, I was going to say, if I may, we are trying to set up a tour with the fire department recycling program, so you'll be able to ask some questions about the battery collection procedures.
Great. Well, thank you. So I know in some cities, there's a certain day of the month that you could just put your, that type of thing next to your bin and it gets picked up. So that's the kind of convenience I think would be a game changer as far as keeping batteries out of the landfill, since they can catch on fire and create even bigger problems. So, all right. So, anyone else? Okay. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate your time and for
You're
giving
welcome.
us all this information.
It's always my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Etienne.
Good night, Commissioners.
Okay, next agenda item.
Next is sustainability programming. So I'm just going to go over very briefly that in July, as Etienne mentioned, we had Shoal Canyon Landfill Tour and Recycling Center Tour. Shoal Canyon Landfill, we had 13 residents and a handful of city staff. I want to say about 15 city staff. It was also their first time taking the tour. So we were able to see the biogas project. We were able to learn how the biogas project is going to work. And we were able to walk the entire landfill site and see all of the, all of the trash coming in and how it was covered afterwards. So that's something that residents got to learn about, and Commissioner Pinkerton, Vice Chair Pinkerton also joined us during both tours. And the Recycling Center tour was conducted by the Allen Company. Residents got to go up to the recycling that is being sorted on the conveyor belts and got to see employees sorting all the trash as it came in. And we also had held a teen climate talk and trinket swap. We have a new intern that joined us, and this was her idea. A big focus of teens is overconsumption, especially overconsumption of clothes and items. So, which is why she held a trinket swap, so that teens who had a lot of trinkets who they no longer wanted could trade with other teens. And our two ex officios also joined us and were able to give a talk during the climate talk. There were about 20 teens there. All of them engaged in discussion and asked questions. I don't know if you guys would like to add on to that.
So me and Felix kind of talked about what we'd be doing as student commissioners and kind of what we see in the future. And we talked about how we both kind of want to focus on youth initiatives, making sure that our youth are aware of what's going on in the city, especially because sustainability, it's something that can really expand with education. So we were talking about our youth initiatives, and the teens at first, they were a little hesitant, but I feel like with Nora's help especially, they were able to loosen up and actually talked a lot about what improvements we can make to the city's current like kind of plan on how to tackle sustainability, and they gave us a lot of really great feedback, especially regarding the bus line, like the B line, and just in general how safe they felt in Glendale and what improvements we can make.
That was great. Was the climate talk at a school or Central Library? Oh, okay.
The teen space.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Very good.
It turned into Government 101 real quickly. So they all got to learn about Glendale Sustainability Commission, City Council, our upcoming climate action plan, everything.
Would it be
So
possible to get a brief write-up about their recommendations or comments that the attendees offer?
of course, I can send that via email to all commissioners.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And just kind of like an outlook on our next set of recurring events. We are going to be hosting more essential facilities tour, which includes the Shoal Canyon Landfill Tour and the Recycling Center Tour. We're also going to host one more clothing swap and repair cafe. And a new programming that I want to bring back is a native plant guided nature hike. We did this once with LA Works, and they were able to walk residents through our own backyards and talk about the importance of native plants and why it matters when it comes to wildfire mitigation. Another new programming is a documentary movie night and discussion. This was suggested by Vice Chair Pinkerton to show a documentary movie and then have a talk regarding it. So it could be about plastics, it could be about composting, so on and so forth. And another programming that I would like to do with the Glendale Environmental Coalition specifically is community cleanups. So those will be our slate of recurring events.
Nora, you said one more repair cafe? Is that what you said?
Yes, that is what I said. So for transparency, our partner at the library moved to another library. So now planning clothing swaps and repair cafes is going to be a little bit harder because she is who I coordinated with. So we just have to set up a new system now. Yeah. And we have to look at the library budget. We did use Makerspace staff for those events. So now we have to look at the library budget since there were some budget cuts.
Okay. I would strongly encourage you continue those, given that we were seeing, I think, increasing attendance, and it was receiving a lot of praise from at least a lot of the people I talked to that attended. So if there's any way we can, strong arm someone at the library to help out, that would be great.
Just so something I can add on that, just like kind of talking about the youth initiative. At CV, I know we have like a tech crew from the robotics team, and our robotics team is pretty successful. So maybe if we can partner up with like local high school students, like from robotics teams, who would be willing for community service hours just to show up and repair, because I know they know how to do it. So, and I feel like any high schooler, if you bribe them with service hours, they'll go. So I think those kind of initiatives would be really good just for the community as well, and getting teens involved in sustainability early. So.
I agree, and we have had some robotics students, but I do have to interject. I'm Clark. We also had a robotics team, and we're competitors. So I cannot say that they're really good because we're lifelong competitors. And to wrap up, I wanted to introduce a new bingo card system. So if people were to participate in 5 of these events, they could enter to receive a prize. So kind of like a report card, if you will.
Great. But, to echo what
Great idea.
ex officio Park was saying, I think leveraging more volunteers, it's a shame to have to pay staff, and anyway, even if there aren't budget cuts, this is an opportunity for people to be more involved in the community. And there's facilities, Elks Lodge, things like that. They're pretty big, and they already have tables there. I used to have my women's civic league meetings there a long time ago, but when that group was still active. So, just thinking about some of the, the churches, there's other locations I'm sure that would be willing to consider something like that. And I think we could get people to help. What are the types of things that staff was doing that you think a volunteer could do? Just like moving, setting up the tables, or
sewing. Our resident sewer, our 2 resident sewers are staff.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
okay. I hope so, but.
You did, and it was very helpful. Yeah.
Okay, okay, so, so we need to put the word out on, for people who can sew then, okay.
Even for that, we have a fashion class at our school, and we can like talk to the teacher, and she'd probably give extra credit for the students to show up, and so like initiatives like that, I feel like they're easy, and yeah.
Or maybe if the teacher could come too.
I feel like more than anything else, it might just be more of like an outreach issue, that if we're able to reach the right volunteers, we'll be able to still put on the events. If we can just get the word out to high schools, I think we would really be able to staff these events just with volunteers.
We will be able to put them on regardless. It's just the frequency of it that's going to be an issue. Yeah.
Okay, great. Does anyone else have any questions or comments on the presentation?
Is that it for the office updates or this particular item? Sorry, is there no office updates? Then I do want to ask about the cap. So is that coming to council soon, is my understanding?
That is coming to the council Tuesday.
Excellent.
Well, I was wondering, one of the tours was the Shoal Canyon one, and so I was wondering what the status was on that, on the, recycling the methane and all that from there. I don't know where that project is. Is it done, or are they halfway done, or?
The biogas project. So we were able to see that some of the flares were up and running. Construction was taking place while we were there. I'm not sure about the progress. Do you remember, Vice Chair Pinkerton, if that was mentioned?
So if I may, Chairperson Werner, we can get GWP to come and provide an update.
I do not.
To
Yeah, I
the
think that
commission
would be-
on that project.
Yeah, that would be worthwhile. It was pretty controversial, and just wondering how that's going, and what the spend has been so far too, because people are feeling the pinch on their utility bills, and this is a big ticket thing, and so I think that transparency would be appreciated. But
Yes, Chairperson Werner, members of the commission, there are a lot of moving parts involved with this process, not the least of which are environmental compliance issues, the location of the natural gas pipeline, which provides a small percentage of sparking fuel to ignite the methane, which has a low ignition temperature. As well as the location of the fuel management areas surrounding that. So the department has to work with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife to ensure that all of the corrective and monitoring measures are being undertaken with respect to protected species, candidate species, things of this nature. There is some, particularly with regard to the fuel modification areas. So that's why I'm saying it's a multi-level process, not just the team that's coordinating with the contracting component, but the team that is coordinating with the permitting component, which is not just the permitting that occurred here in Glendale, but also on the state level, to ensure that there's compliance and all of the right people and experts that we have retained are mobilized and available to undertake those activities as they become necessary. So that's part of the whole process here, and working around certain native species. So when you can conduct certain activities is very closely regulated. So all of that compliance activity is underway right now.
okay, thank you. Yeah, it was one of the missing pieces, I thought, when we were looking at it, was like exactly where the new pipeline would go. That route wasn't part of the package, and yet, if I were potentially in the path of that, I would want to know, how close that is to my house, or how disruptive is it going to be when they're putting it in, and, that kind of thing. That's why I advocated for using the existing gas pipe, but apparently that wasn't feasible. But okay, yeah, I understand there are a lot of considerations or raptor nesting season, things like that that people don't always think about with construction. But okay, thank you for that.
Next is Sustainability Office updates. As mentioned, there are no updates. Item 8, adjournment.
Okay, would someone like to move to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
I'm sorry, couldn't hear you. Hello?